revealed that large portions of youth development funds went unspent due to poor implementation. We can't spend the money we already have. What good is another paper promise? Madam Speaker, talk of entrepreneurship means little without internet, electricity, and transport in the very areas where youth are eager to innovate. Teens and
Honorable member, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Teens and scanty with bold ideas, yet without basic infrastructure, they are stuck while the government keeps launching, relaunching, and continuing strategy that remains out of reach. So I ask this House plainly. Will its motion change your lives, or will it just change headlines? Will it bring infrastructure to Region 9? Will it expand creative funding in Region 10? Or will it offer yet another round of photo ops and ceremonial check handovers? In closing, Madam Speaker, this motion is full of holes. It lacks cultural relevance to youth in the arts and creative sectors, support for sports as a viable business path, real youth participation, the clear plan for execution, accountability, or funding. So, Madam Speaker, let us not dress failure in fine words. Let us not trade real youth potential for ceremonial motions. Because until we can look a young person in the eye in Kokwani, in Port Kaituma, in Rosal, and say, we heard you, we saw you, and we served you, then this House has done is so far. We in the opposition are not here to play politics with youth futures. We are here to demand that strategy bearing their name be bold, inclusive, accountable, and effective. But until that is delivered, we cannot, we will not support this motion. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We will now call upon the Honorable Shreya Ramnarayan, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We celebrate graduations with caps, gowns, and speeches about bright futures. But for many of our youth, the day after graduation feels more like a dead end. They know the definitions, the formulas, the theory, but they lack capital, they lack mentorship, they lack networks. Today, I rise in full support of this motion because I believe that entrepreneurship is how we take young people from powerless to powerful. According to the International Labour Association in July 2025, the current labor force participation rate in Guyana stands at 49.6%, which is well below the Caribbean regional and global averages. Too many of our youth step out of the classroom ready to soar, yet the runway before them is missing. They are trained in theory, yes. They can recite content, but when it comes to applying that knowledge in real-world settings, they are poorly equipped. And that is precisely why we, the government, are stepping forward with a clear, targeted response. We recognize the need for structured support systems, entrepreneurship training, access to startup funding, and business development programs that don't just prepare our youths for the job market, but empower them to create their own spaces within. Madam Speaker, giving young people the tools they need is only half the fight. If talent has nowhere to go, what good is it? Because we foster frustration, underemployment, and lost potential rather than ambition when young people receive training but aren't offered opportunities to put their abilities to use. The youth entrepreneurship strategy is unique in that it puts theory into practice by creating areas for creativity, innovation, and revenue generation. Young business owners can obtain grants, low-interest loans, mentorship, and business support through collaborations with organizations such as Guyana's Small Business Bureau, supporting the teenagers who already have ideas, ambition, and drive, but just need a little push of capital and guidance to see them through. Madam Speaker, allow me to ask the members of the opposition, How can we expect to build a sustainable economy when the very people meant to sustain it, our youth, are shut out of the system? Will we keep telling them to wait their turn, or will we finally let them lead? In addition, Madam Speaker, young people are much more likely to engage in risky and antisocial activities when they are disengaged or unoccupied, economically marginalized, or feel cut off from society. According to the CDB's Youth Are the Future study in 2015, two major factors contributing to youth violence and criminal activity in the Caribbean are economic exclusion and a lack of opportunities. Young people who lack a clear path forward are more likely to succumb to harmful influences like gangs, drugs, and theft, not because they are inherently bad people per se, but rather because they are attempting to survive in the absence of opportunities. The research does stress, though, that youth entrepreneurship initiatives have the power to bring a pause to this trend, allowing youths to create something of their own. And that, Madam Speaker, is one of the most effective deterrents to crime and social breakdown. Guyana's youth entrepreneurship strategy must be rooted in real spaces, genuine support, and tangible investment, as potential alone is meaningless without access. Madam Speaker, the government has already advanced this goal through the establishment of the Creative Hub and Fashion Council, which connects local designers, models, and artists with global buyers and the media, serving as both an incubator for youth-led businesses in design, culture, and performance, and a celebration of fashion and the arts. This platform equips young people to monetize, scale, and sustain their talents while challenging them to showcase their abilities. Members of the opposition.
Honorable member, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the opposition, these projects are real. The lives of Guyanese are already being impacted by these established operational projects. Madam Speaker, shouldn't we be the ones encouraging our young people to envision themselves as CEOs, designers, and architects of their own destinies? In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the youth entrepreneurship strategy is not charity. This is the government strategy. And Madam Speaker, if this motion is carried, you get substance, you get clarity, quality for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We will now call upon the Honorable Anaya Bennett, Shadow Minister of Labor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable colleagues. I rise today not just to propose a modified motion, but to expose it for what it really is. A sweet sounding promise with no teeth, no structure, and no real plan to tackle the deep-rooted crisis of youth unemployment in Guyana. Yes, Madam Speaker, we all agree that youth are the future, but you can't build the future on vibes and PowerPoint presentation. Yes, this is what this motion is giving us, vibes. Let's be real. The motion claims that youth entrepreneurship is the answer to youth unemployment. But if starting a little business was the solution, half the young people selling hot dog and barbecue chicken on Sherry Street would have been millionaires by now. No? No offense to those who are working to earn a dollar in this country. But it goes to show the reality that some of these youth faces in this economy. According to the International Labour Organization of 2023, youth unemployment in Guyana was estimated at 23%, nearly double the national average. That's not a gap, Madam Speaker. That's a chasm. Thank you. And the so-called national entrepreneurship strategy the government is pushing still largely unimplemented. You can't even hear about the you ever hear about a strategy so quiet, even the youth is supposed to help, don't know it exists. The motion mentions support like startup capital and incubation centers. But let me ask the government this question. How many people in region 1, 7, or 9 even know where to apply for these so-called resources? Have you ever tried filling out a grant application without Wi-Fi, without a printer, or a clue what a business plan looks like? Not every youth got an uncle or auntie in Georgetown or even a fancy laptop. Madam Speaker, we're talking about decent work here, but we're pushing young people into self-employment without a safety net to fall back on. Entrepreneurship without proper infrastructure, healthcare, or labor protection is not empowerment, it is exploitation. You're telling the youth, go start a coconut business, man, but if you ain't give him a cooler or a way to get into the market or protection if police harasses him for vending. Where's the commitment to building farmer jobs with benefits? According to the Caribbean Development Bank Youth Unemployment 2022, countries that focus solely on entrepreneurship and para investment in job creation and education see minimal impact. In plain words, you can't tell people start climbing the ladder if you build the ladder. And the whole idea about internship
Honorable member, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the whole idea about internships and apprenticeships, nice words. But let me ask you, which young person is happy to work for free 6 months to gain experience, only to be told, no thanks, we're not hiring? I'm wondering what the government thinks if experience pays the bills. Let's stop romanticizing entrepreneurship as a catch-all solution. Yes, some of the youth are entrepreneurs, but many more want stable jobs, skill training, and protection from exploitation. We need serious investment in technical and vocational education across 10 regions. We need job placement programs backed by actual funding, not just be working on it, man. We need labor protections for young people in formal jobs, and importantly, we need young people in the room when these policies are being made, not after the fact when the ink is dry. Madam Speaker, I will not support this motion as a shadow minister of labor until it offers concrete, measurable, and equitable solutions for youth, not just the selected few with access, privileges, and connection. Because at the end of the day, if our youth is the future, then let's stop treating them like an afterthought. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We will now call upon the Honorable Aisha Mendonça, Shadow Minister of... My apologies, everyone. We will now call upon the Honorable Aisha Mendonça, Minister of Labor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is with great respect I stand before you to address the motion, the implementation of a national youth entrepreneurship strategy, with strong endorsement that this strategy should be enforced. It was once said by Franklin D. Roosevelt, and I quote, "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can always build our youth for the future," end quote. Madam Speaker, let's look reality in the eye. Many of our young people are unemployed and underemployed, particularly in the hinterland areas. These issues faced at present lead to financial crisis and also negatively impact our economy. Far too many young people are being pushed to the margins of society, unable to secure a good job so that they can help break the cycle of poverty that continues to plague their family. Young people are crying for decent jobs and opportunities to develop themselves. Madam Speaker, we cannot let their cries go unheard. According to statistics published by Aaron O'Neill on July 22nd, 2025, the youth unemployment rate in Guyana for 2023 was 25.68% and 22.32% for 2024. It decreased by 3.36%. Speaker, we the government can make an even greater change in reducing this level of unemployment. Madam Speaker, the data provided clearly shows that too many of our youth are stuck in the cycle of inadequate employment, not because of the lack of talent or potential, but because of limited opportunities and the lack of support. But we, the government, are here to say that this cycle ends now. We are about to make a change. Madam Speaker, we, the government, recognize the bitter truth that our young Guyanese are faced with. We know Challenges. We see the way they infiltrate homes, producing cycle of poverty, limiting access to proper education, suitable nutrition, and adequate health care. We understand that when there are not many opportunities, children can direct themselves towards self-destruction through crime, gang activities, selling drugs, and other desperate means. Poverty not only robs individual of material security, it drains them of option and hope. But Madam Speaker, this is exactly why the government is committed to tackling this issue head on so that every Guyanese can grow and contribute in tangible ways towards the development of our nation. Madam Speaker, allow me to ask the opposition to think about all the positive action that follow this strategy. And as the Minister of Labour, invest in our youth. Allow the government by offering startup capital, training, mentorship, incubation hubs, entrepreneurship education in the fundamental sectors to help turn ideas into successful businesses. Why? Because our youths are the future and they're worth being invested in. This strategy has great potential. The benefits are immeasurable. Youth entrepreneurship doesn't just benefit the individual. It has a profound impact on community. They provide job. It will decrease the unemployment rate. Youth will be more active, engaging in meaningful activities to ensure their business are successful. There will be higher productivity, lower crime rates, increased tax revenue, and an increased standard of living, overall contributing to Guyana's economic growth, ultimately leading to a more progressive and stable nation. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Minister, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this motion is called for. It's time for a change. It's time to rise. Time to empower youth. It is not just a policy on a paper. It is a promise. A promise to invest not just money, but resources, time, and unconditional support, and to give them the opportunities that they truly deserve. We will ensure that the talent and ideas of our youth never go unnoticed. Instead, we will bring them to reality, regardless of who they are and where they came from. We believe that this motion can transform not only their lives, but the future of our beautiful country. Madam Speaker, let us not wait for a change. Let us be the change. I stand here in full support of this strategy. It will break barriers. The future of our country stands within this motion. I urge the honorable member of the House, specifically the ones opposite me, to also be in full support to the enforcement of this strategy. And that, Madam Speaker, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We will now call upon the Honorable Emily Bisnoth, Shadow Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good day to everyone here. I rise on behalf of the opposition to offer a critical yet constructive look at the government's plan, I quote, to implement a national youth entrepreneurship strategy, end quote. I speak not only as the Shadow Minister of Agriculture, but as a concerned youth living and breathing the realities of rural and hinterland Guyana. This plan sounds good on paper, but the real question is, will it actually work for every young person in Guyana, or just those already standing on solid ground? This plan sounds good on. We all know our youth are full of energy, creativity, and ideas. They're key to growing our economy. But if this strategy is going to support them, it just can't be empty promises. It has to deal with real struggles young people face, especially in farming and in the remote parts of our country. Think about this. How can we talk about youth entrepreneurship when many young people in rural areas don't even have access to basic financial help and land? And on top of that, they often don't have good schools or reliable internet, things we all take for granted. In the hinterland, poor roads and bad infrastructure make it even harder to get education and the skills they need. According to the UNDP Human Development Report from 2023, youth unemployment is highest in regions 1, 8, and 9, areas rich with farmland and natural resources, but also the most remote. So why isn't this plan focusing more on unlocking potential right there. Sure, training is great, but it only helps if it actually reaches the people who need it. Farming businesses have grown without land, water, or tools. The FAO reported in 2023 that 60% of young farmers say they lack modern equipment, irrigation, and places to sell their crops. What's the point of training someone if they can't even afford fertilizers or transport their goods to the market? Money is another big problem. The government says young people will get startup funds, but how often do rural youth actually get the support compared to those in the city? The Caribbean Development Bank report from 2024 shows that young people in Georgia are twice as likely to get the grants than those in faraway communities. This isn't just about farming, this is about fairness. This plan has to close the gap between city and countryside, between those with money and those without. Right now, private companies and internships mostly happen in the cities, not in places where it is really needed. And Madam Speaker, and we cannot forget about the women. A 2023 UN Women Study found that young women in farming gets less mentoring and funding, even though they do a lot.
Remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Especially in our hinterland communities. If you want progress, our plans have to include everyone. We also need to think bigger than just traditional farming. Our young people should be encouraged to try new technologies, things like drones, vertical gardens, eco-friendly food processing. But how will they learn about this if they've never even seen the equipment or been trained to use it? We also need to think bigger. So what do we just suggest? Not to throw out the plan, to make it stronger. First, we need clear goals that specifically include young people in the hinterland. At least 30% of funds should be guaranteed for rural farmers who often face the greatest challenges. Mobile training teams should travel directly to remote communities so that no one is left out simply because of distance. And finally, we must ensure that mentoring opportunities and financial support are shared fairly between young men and women so that no group is left behind. In closing, if we want our youth to be Guyana,
your time is done.
thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I request that my colleague can finish her speech, please.
Honorable member, permission granted.
Thank you.
Closing, we want our youth to lead Guyana to a stronger and greener future. We need real action that reaches every corner of the country, not just big promises. We don't oppose youth entrepreneurship, far from it. We just want this plan to work for all young people, not just the lucky few. Otherwise, it risks becoming just another good idea that never leaves the paper. Let's fix these problems. Let's make sure this strategy reaches not just Georgetown, but places like Tiger Pond, Matthews Ridge, and Guyana. Every young person deserves a real chance at a better life, no matter where they live. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now invite the Honorable Rahim Rusal, Minister of Agriculture, to the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is with firm conviction and high hopes for our nation's future that I rise to address this motion, the implementation of a national youth entrepreneurship strategy. I stand here today in unyielding support that we must implement this strategy. As the Minister of Agriculture, I behold the reality in every direction. I turn every day in our villages, on our farms, and in our rural interior. I behold young people with energy, with idea, and with ambition, but far too many without the chance they deserve. Madam Speaker, let's call a spade a spade. Far too many of our young people are unemployed or underemployed. It's not just an economic problem in rural and hinterland areas, though it's a social problem. When our young people have no hopes of improving themselves, the cycle of poverty closes its trap, taking away their dignity and taking away from our nation's its potential future. Our government is convinced that agriculture has the potential to be among the engines driving this transformation. Farming is not merely growing crop, It is innovation, agribusiness, value-added crops and products, agri-tech, and sustainable food production. It is one of the most powerful platforms for youth entrepreneurship, from farm to market value chains, to agro-processing plant and green packaging enterprise, to export-oriented cooperatives. The opportunities are there. It is for this reason, therefore, with this approach, the Ministry of Agriculture will partner with our sister ministry to ensure that young Guyanese are not just trained, but equipped with startup capitals, mentorship, incubation space, and specialized entrepreneurship programs in key agriculture subsectors, such as agro-processing, fisheries, and sustainable livestock production. We observe young people running greenhouses that produce high-value crops, aquaculture farms that serve both local and regional markets, and, and agri-innovators who create new technology that increase production will be sustainable. Madam Speaker, these are not pipe dreams. They are possibilities. With the right policy, and this motion offers that context. The return will ripple through every community. More job opportunities for rural communities, fewer imports of food, more food securities for our citizens, increased export and tax revenue, and most importantly, help young people who can live themselves, their family, and their communities out of poverty. Madam Speaker, as the Minister of Agriculture, I have walked among farms where wide-eyed youths are already piloting climate resilient technology. I have spoken to young women in rural villages.
Honorable Minister, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Who are turning traditional recipes into exportable commodities. What they lack is not passion. It is access to capital, business acumen, and network to take their innovations to market. This is a policy that says to them, we notice you, we have faith in you, and we will invest in you. Madam Speaker, this is not merely policy, it is a vow that no matter if a youth is born in a suburb of Jarchang or far down in the Rupununis, their ability will not pass unseen, their aspiration will not go unnoticed. Let us be clear, agriculture youth entrepreneurship will nourish our citizens, but it will power our economy. It will make our communities more safe, our communities more resilient, and it will provide a new generation with cause to believe in their potential and their own hands and minds. Thus today, Madam Speaker, I encourage the honorable member opposite to put politics aside and prioritize our youth. Let us pass this motion and make it a turning point for Guyana's future generation of agricultural leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs. Now is the time. Let us plant today's seed of possibility so that tomorrow Guyana reaps the fruit of more resilient, richer, and stronger nation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We now turn to the Honorable Serena. We now turn to the Honorable Sebastian Khan, Shadow Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Zig Ziglar once said, there is no elevator to success, you must take the stairs. But this motion doesn't just ignore these steps, it creates a non-existent elevator. As a member of the opposition, I do not stand to reject this idea of implementing a national youth entrepreneurship strategy. Rather, I stand to modify this motion to ground it in reality, equity, and the lived experience of Guyana's diverse youth. Today, I will highlight how this motion promotes centralized development, neglects the youth in the natural resources sector, and assumes equal progression despite the real inequalities faced by the youth in our rural and hinterland regions. Madam Speaker, let us take a closer look at this motion. This motion touts incubation centers and market access as targeted support for the youth. Currently, in Guyana, we have 2 public operational incubation centers, one on the coast in Belvedere Region 6 and another one in Lethem Region 9. Progress. What about Region 1? Region 7, Bartica, Port Kaituma, or even Monkey Jump. I didn't know youth there too. What markets are accessible to the average youth in Trinidad who don't even have access to road or electricity? The youth of Joanna who digitally physically cannot reach these markets, and the young people of Parima Village, Region 7, near the Brazilian border, expecting to access these markets without reliable internet. Madam Speaker, if this is targeted support, I must ask to whom, because it's certainly not due to Chihuahua, Monkey Jump, or Prima. Now, this motion's key gaps in key sectors with omission for Guyana's youth in natural resources. Madam Speaker, this motion mentions key sectors with renewable energy in its footnote. Rightfully so, we support innovation and sustainability. But what is baffling is the complete omission of the oil and gas sector, the very industry that has driven this country to become the world's fastest growing economy. According to the Country News, the covering of the International Energy Conference, Ghana's oil revenues are directed towards investment aimed at growing this economy. Yet, no provisions are being made for the youths to engage in such a progressive sector. Let that sink in. Even more striking is the complete exclusion of mining and logging. In 2023, the forestry sector contributed 86 million US dollars to Ghana's GDP. Forestry exports projected to rise by 53% in 2024. According to Guyana Forestry Commission and International Trade Revenues. Meanwhile, for the Guyana Gold, Diamond, and Diamonds Miners Association, country expert reported that 30,000 Guyanese are supported by the mining sector indirectly. So I must ask, how is this motion empowering when the very sectors that sustain livelihoods across this nation are completely ignored? Madam Speaker, this motion discusses expanding internships and training, but completely ignores the critical problem of adequate infrastructure across the rural and hinterland communities. Access to electricity, roads, and internet connections are necessary for any entrepreneurship strategy to succeed. Yet in Parima, Jawala, and Monkey Jumps, these fundamental necessities are non-existent. The government often responds, we will work on this very soon, very shortly, but that's precisely the problem. You cannot bring a strategy without a plan. You cannot sell dreams without a foundation. Until these inequalities are fixed, there will be no real access or inclusion. This national youth entrepreneurship strategy will not empower our youth, just the ones with a head start. Madam Speaker, this motion talks about opportunity, but forgets the reality. It leaves out key sectors like mining and oil, centralizes support, and assumes a level playing field. But as Gordon B. Hinckley once said, thank you, Madam Speaker, you can't build a great building without a foundation. So if we truly want to empower all youth, the foundation must be real and the plan must be fair. This motion in its current form cannot stand. That is why, Madam Speaker, I urge this government go back to the drawing board, make these changes, and come back again. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now invite the Honorable Serena Badur, Minister of Natural Resources, to the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members of this honorable House, good morning. I stand before you today to assertively endorse the motion implementing a national youth entrepreneurship strategy. This is not simply an idea, it is a call of action. A plan grounded in our trust in the potential of our youth and our determination to secure lasting sustainable progress for Guyana. Madam Speaker, through this motion, we aim to instill the entrepreneurial spirit in every young Guyanese, transforming them from those looking for employment to producers of employment. It is, as the Guyana Youth Development Institute correctly contends, and I quote, investing in youth entrepreneurship is not just about economic growth. It's about cultivating a generation of resilient problem solvers ready to shape our nation's destiny, end quote. This is the moment to prepare our young people to lead boldly and assertively in leading the diversification of our economy. To continue on this path is not only necessary to fulfill the intent of this motion, it is a requirement to ensure Guyana's future. We, the government, are committed to implementing a nationwide, fully funded entrepreneurship program that will equip every young Guyanese with the tools to succeed. Madam Speaker, this program will offer a dynamic, practical experience with all the resources needed for success. It is not merely theoretical, advanced digital literacy, sensible financial management, and business planning. Youth entrepreneurship needs to be supported by our natural resources sector. Our Guyanese are taking the lead in specialized oil and gas support services, create forestry product development, and environmentally friendly mining services. Madam Speaker, we, the government, have thought about how businesses run by young people could use drones to keep an eye on forests or make timber products that are worth more. Because of this program, they'll be able to use our country's many natural resources in a responsible way. We are also making and expanding educational and training programs to get more people from the Ministry of Education and young people involved. By working with groups like the University of Guyana and many technical institutes, there's been a massive growth in skills training opportunities from 9 schools offering CBQ subjects in 2020 to 74 schools offering 24 CBQ subjects by 2025. This includes partnerships with sectors like agriculture and technical instruction at secondary and vocational levels. Madam Speaker, more can be done. We need to consider how some extracted income can be used to fund innovation grants and youth-led business initiatives. Pertaining to the field of natural resources, the answer is simple. A national youth entrepreneurship fund needs to receive a sizable amount of our extractive revenues. This fund will specifically target youth-led enterprises that prioritize value-added processing, sustainable resource management, and green technologies with grants and easily accessible loans. Our objective is to directly link long-term youth-driven development with our nation's wealth. Part of this help is getting access to pop-up markets and expos to get more exposure. This study help is important for long-term success. The Small Business Bureau of Guyana says, and I quote, startups that get ongoing mentorship and financial literacy support have 40% higher survival rate in their first 3 years, end quote. Our goal is to nurture a generation of entrepreneurs equipped with the resilience and determination.
Honorable Minister, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Determination to overcome any obstacle. Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, let us join together to help our young people build a culture rooted in creativity, resilience, and independence. Let us prepare Guyana not only to meet the future, but to take the lead, emerging as a Caribbean champion in youth empowerment. On our journey towards shared prosperity, we must ensure that no young Guyanese is left behind. I therefore urge you for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We now call upon the Honorable Serena Scott, Shadow Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I stand before you to bring modification to the motion before us. One of the greatest leaders, Mr. Nelson Mandela, once said, and I quote, "A vision without a viable plan is a mere delusion," end quote. And this motion, as it stands, is a vision floating without a foundation. Madam Speaker, I must ask, how can this strategy succeed without direct or tangible investment in the housing and water sector, which is currently lacking? Has the government truly created a detailed plan that specifies roles, funding, and the accountability necessary for a national strategy of this scale? The motion is echoingly silent on providing affordable housing, service land, or commercial spaces. Yet, for many youth-led startups, particularly those in the agriculture,
sector and the tourism sectors, a physical foundation with access to sanitary water is beyond essential. According to the Global Water Security and Sanitation Report 2024, water quality is a foundational component of economic prosperity and human health. Therefore, Madam Speaker, poor water quality and lack of access to clean water can contribute to widespread diseases and hinder economic development. Without these basic amenities, a young person's ability to build a business is heavily hindered, regardless of how much startup capital they receive. This is, this is especially true for young entrepreneurs in our rural communities, where the lack of housing and water development makes many businesses non-viable from the get-go. The government's own initiative over the past 5 years to distribute 50,000 house lots is a case in point. To whom were these house lots given to? Our youth? Or perhaps those of higher class? What about the application for a small business plot of land in 2020? In hopes of getting a land lease or land title in the next 10 years? These are some of the issues that we call on the government to answer before they come to this noble house to lecture us on implementing a national youth entrepreneurship strategy. Get it right, man! This reality also lied before us. Many youths face challenge of funding the extravagant cost of building a house or business structure. Data from the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, indicates that the cost of building a starter home has increased by over 30% in the last 2 years, placing it far beyond the reach of an average young person. Currently, rent prices in our capital city are prohibitively high, creating a barrier for many low-income young entrepreneurs. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, let us not ignore the issue of water quality. The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, and the World Health Organization, WHO, have, in their joint reports dated September 14, 2024, on water sanitation and hygiene in Guyana, highlighted that in many hinterland communities, there is little to no reliable access to modern water systems, where residents complained that the water in these areas contains iron and lead, resulting in a reddish-brown color. For any business involving food preparation, health services, or hospitality, clean running water is non-negotiable. Without it, these businesses are not just non-viable, they are a public health risk. May I ask the government, are they prepared for another outbreak in waterborne diseases? Or will they make the necessary modification to this motion so that it will cater for the youth throughout the length and breadth of Guyana? Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the Shadow Minister within this Ministry of Housing and Water, I must reiterate that our youth deserve more than false promises. They deserve a well thought out, executable plan of action. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We will now call upon the Honorable Bharat Dasrat, Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, and more importantly, as a citizen who refuses to watch our nation's youth be left behind, I rise today in unwavering support of this motion before us, implementing a national youth entrepreneurship strategy. This is not a side project, it is a backbone of our future. It is a decisive and overdue intervention aimed at addressing the glaring lack of entrepreneurial opportunities available to our young people. Madam Speaker, according to a Guyana Standard article dated 9 December 2022, the youth unemployment rate in Guyana stood at a staggering 25% in spite of our well-publicized economic growth. Since then, both unemployment and underemployment among young people have continued to climb. Let's be clear, these are not just numbers on a chart. These are wasted lives, unrealized talents, and the slow but certain leakage of our nation potential. We all know the path after finishing secondary school. Our young people either pursue tertiary studies or seek employment, yet without experience, resources, or access to opportunities. Too many are forced to settle for inactivity or poorly paid jobs far below their abilities. We have created an economy where young talent is trained only to be benched. And some of us have the temerity to act surprised when they leave for better prospects abroad. In our hinterland and forested regions, the problem is even more insulting. Highly qualified young people are underemployed, often stuck in agricultural roles unrelated to their expertise, simply because there are no viable business opportunities where they live. What does it say about us as policymakers if we educate young leaders, yet leave them in communities without the means to use their skills? Madam Speaker, this has been the reality for far too long, not by design, but by the slow erosion of opportunity. This government refuses to allow that cycle to continue. Through this motion, we will turn untapped potential into national progress and ensure that no community, urban or hinterland, is left without pathways for its youth to thrive. Other nations are not standing still. A press release from Trinidad and Tobago's Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs highlighted a partnership between their ministries of youth development and trade initiatives, like the Future Leaders Summit, which combines leadership training with direct access to markets and resources. They are not merely encouraging youth entrepreneurship, they are equipping young people with every tool to succeed. Meanwhile, here in Guyana, if we delay, we send a clear message to our youths. Your innovation can wait. And Madam Speaker, the rest of the world will not wait with us. Our proposal is practical. We will partner with local firms, cooperatives, and small businesses across all regions to provide hands-on training and cultural understanding that will enable young people to create businesses rooted in their communities. Ministries will work in union, housing and water with agriculture for field training, labor for stipends, and employment services.
Honorable Minister, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amerindian Affairs for Hinterland Access, natural resources for sustainable business development, and culture, youth, and sport to fuel the creativity and drive that transforms ideas into enterprise. This is not theory, this is a blueprint. And if anyone here finds it too ambitious, perhaps the issue is not the plan, but a comfort with mediocrity. Madam Speaker, in Daniel's best words, I quote, harnessing the entrepreneurial talents of the region's young people is vital for inclusive and sustainable growth. We cannot claim to care for our youths while leaving them to fight for scraps. Today, we can change that. Let us choose progress over self-satisfaction and give our youths the tool to shape Guyana's tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We shall now call to the floor the Honorable Julia Tosaram, the Leader of the Opposition.
Let me begin by acknowledging the spirit of this motion. The government proposes to continue youth empowerment. That is commendable. That is necessary. Ask the tougher question. Is this truly a new strategy, or is it just recycled promises repackaged to look like progress? We hear that the government will continue development and expand existing programs. Yet when it comes to the most critical challenge, youth entrepreneurship face, not starting a business but sustaining it, there is definite silence. As leader of the opposition, I urge this house to see the irony. Implementing a national youth entrepreneurship strategy sounds bold, but repetition isn't revolution. Year after year, we hear the same promises, yet the structural gaps remain untouched, while the government basks in applause for early successes that are often short lived. I cannot deny, however, the government's recent commitments align with Sustainable Goal number 8, decent work and economic growth. Initiatives like the Youth Entrepreneurship Program and the Engagement Program have given valuable support. But these efforts, however well meaning, are not new. They are reruns of old scripts lacking the foresight to address long term business survival. Too many youth let business shine bright for a moment, only to fade away within 3 to 5 years. A March 20th, 2024 article in Kaiser News titled Youth Entrepreneurs Struggle to Keep Business Afloat After Startup Fit has reported that over 60% of youth-owned startup businesses have failed within the first 4 years. This failure is not for the lack of vision or talent, but because the government has failed to provide sustained support, market integration, and ongoing mentorship. So while the strategy offers startup capital, incubation centers, mentorship, and market access, it ignores the harsh reality. A youth-led business that closes its door within a year is a failure, a lost dream, and a wasted investment. International research confirms that launching a business is only the beginning. A November 2023 study titled Evaluating Youth Employment in Ghana found that most initiatives fail to conduct proper long-term evaluations, leaving policymakers blind whether businesses were surviving or collapsing. Without proper follow-up, the government is celebrating ribbon cuttings while turning a blind eye to shuttered doors. This strategy must embed a 3-year monitoring for all youth businesses' funds because survival, not just startup, it should be the real measure of success. But tracking behind closed doors is useless. If results remain locked away, how can the public judge if the money is well spent? The OECD's November 2022 report, Unlocking the Potential of Youth-Led Social Enterprises, showed that public reporting of survival rates, job creation, and revenue growth builds trust and attracts further investment. Transparency forces accountability, something this government has yet to fully embrace. We must also ensure that evaluations are credible. When programs are assessed by the same agencies that run them, there is a dangerous conflict of interest that leads to inflated success claims. The 2023 Empowerment Evaluation Guidelines highlight that only independent third-party assessments produce honest results and build public confidence. And finally, the government must stop handing out funds with no strings attached. The World Bank's 2021 policy notes supporting youth entrepreneurship documents how performance-based financing ensures that only businesses showing measurable growth receive upscale funding. This creates the much-needed incentive to prove success before receiving more resources. Honorable members, this government likes to plant seeds and then take the credit for launches. But without tending to those seeds with care, water, and pruning, most will wither away before they even bear fruit. This nation deserves more than empty promises and fleeting celebrations. We deserve a strategy that tracks, publishes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Verifies and rewards real success. Let us reject complacency. Let us demand accountability. And let us ensure that youth entrepreneurship in Guyana grows into a strong, lasting pillar our economy desperately needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of the Opposition. We now invite the Honorable Mohammed Hussan, Prime Minister, to the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand today again, this time in disappointment. But to start, I will ask the opposition to listen more attentively because I'm sure our hinterlanders were, and I assure you they will be heard too, as my mentions have members have continuously stated. Members of this house, specifically the opposition once again, I implore you to learn what creative industries include, because you wouldn't be telling the government that we don't support music, sport, and other creative crafts. Because creative industries includes all of that. That is what creative industries mean. This government, oh, we, the government, don't want, we, the government, the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports will sharpen their creativity, drive, and fire their drive through various sporting and cultural initiatives. Madam Speaker, they say entrepreneurship does not increase employment rates or move our youths forward and up the ladder. But, Madam Speaker, this strategy will be that ladder that will turn those same hot dog stands into fully functioning fast food chains. This strategy will be structured following the ever successful strengthening the entrepreneurial spirit of the Caribbean Youth Program, which has, and I repeat, a 79% confidence in sustainability for those 693 youths who have participated. But, Madam Speaker, as my honorable minister said, this is not charity. We will give all youths the resources to materialize their dreams nationwide, as long as our voices can be heard. As long as your voice can be heard, you will be supported. So it does not matter if you're at the border of Guyana and Brazil. As long as we hear you, we will support you. And as for the structured intern apprenticeships, this will offer youth to see real world experience and learn. This will give them the exposure they need. And this is not for free. The Ministry of Education will give them internship credits. And, Madam Speaker, I close, and this motion will be implemented very soon, very sharply.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes the debates on the motion. I now put the question. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say no. Division, Mr. Clerk.
No, the movement. It only does.
Do you understand its loss?
No.
Miss Serena Scott?
No.
Mr. Abhijit Prasad?
No.
Miss LaShawn Samuels?
No.
Mr. Michael Brutus? Mr. Timothy Mohabir?
No.
Miss Catherine Abraham?
No.
Mr. Sebastian Khan?
No.
Miss Anaya Bennett?
No.
Miss Emily Bisnoff? Mr. Sachin Prasad?
No.
Mr. Shiv December?
No.
Miss Princess Stephen? Mr. Javante Adams? Miss Sapna Prasad? Miss Janae Anthony?
No.
Miss Lillian Thomas? Miss Vernie Diodat? Miss Julia Tusram, Miss Akila Edwards,
Yes.
Miss Sabara Dasrat,
Yes.
Miss Arima Drayton,
Yes.
Miss Shreya Ramnarayan,
Yes.
Miss Samaya Ramcharan, Mr. Santino Surcentono,
Yes.
Miss Zariah Burnett,
Yes.
Miss Serena Bahadur,
Yes.
Miss Aisha Mendonca,
Yes.
Miss Juliana Fernandez,
Yes.
Mr. Rahim Rasul,
Yes.
Miss Flavia Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Zikel Narayan,
Yes.
Mr. Ronson Hart,
Yes.
Miss Adelcia Solomon,
Yes.
Miss Michaela Reed,
Yes.
Miss Sierra Hernandez, Mr. Jaquel White,
Yes.
Mr. Tafawa Adrich,
Yes.
Miss Christiana Gill, Mr. Mohammed Hussein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Madam Speaker, 21 members voted in favor of the motion, 19 members voted against the motion, and 0 members abstained.
Honorable members, the motion is carried. Mr. Clark,
Private business motions.
honorable members, the first private member's motion on the order paper stands in the name of the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Julia Tolstrom. You may proceed.
Picture this. You're driving home after a long, exhausting day. Your mind is only fixated on the comfort of your home when in an instant, blinding lights, screeching tires, and a deafening crash. And then silence. In an instant, life leaves you. Your dreams unfinished. Your goodbyes unsaid. And the question lingers. Why? Was it a drunk driver who treated the speed limit as a suggestion? Was it someone who bought their license and ignored the rules? Or was it the road itself, dark, unmarked, and unprotected? Ladies and houses is not just a scenario, it is a national crisis. A crisis driven by reckless drivers, treacherous roads, and a government too far slow to act. Because when a government can't even guarantee its people safe passage home, it's failed the most basic duty of leadership, the duty to protect life. That is why I rise today to move this motion. Solutions prevent the continuous increase of road accidents. Not to speak about safety as an ideal, but to demand it as a right. The United Nations 11 goal called for safe, resilient settlements. Yet every day, another Guyanese family grieves a life lost on our roads. The Guyana Chronicle, citing the 2025 traffic report, reveals a 70% increase in fatal accidents in the first half of this year compared to 2024. That 70% is not just a statistic. That 17% is children, parents, and future stolen, while the government hesitates and tragedy continues to unfold. Madam Speaker, it is incumbent that the government awake from their slumber if the facts are not clear enough. Most fatal crashes come from speeding, inexperience, drunk driving, and unsafe roads. Kaiser News called it the silent killer because the reasons are known, the solutions are known, but still the initiative to act has not been taken. That is not a tragedy, it is negligence. So what does this mean for our people? Families torn apart, survivors left with long-term injuries, hospitals pushed beyond their limits. Kaiser Nu has called it clearly a public health crisis in need of urgent action. And the cost goes beyond grief. Road crashes drain economies, taking up to 5% of their GDP worldwide. In Guyana, that is millions lost and resources squandered because adequate protections were never put in place. Our people are tired. Tired of loss, tired of waiting, tired of hearing condolences instead of seeing change. And when they turn to us for answer, this government has given them excuses. Well, guess what? We say enough. We will not accept another year of wait and see while families bury their own. We, the opposition, are ready to act. Our proposal is simple. If you want the privilege of driving on Guyana's roads, you must prove you are fit to do so, physically, mentally, and with a capacitive understanding of the law. Annual examinations coordinated by the GRA and the Ministry of Home Affairs with support with our mental health, our health system, will make this a reality.
And this is not just a theory, honorable members. It is proven.
Sweden's international acclaimed Vision Zero did not merely reduce accidents, it transformed road safety by demanding that every driver meet the highest standards through rigorous checks and strict licensing requirements. Sweden has adopted this critical system, whereas road accidents are identified and prevented, dropping Sweden's death toll from 30% to 18%. Madam Speaker, why should a successful system like this be any different for our country? If the government allowed itself to take a break from political theatrics, real work can be done. By implementing deep, comprehensive road strategies, this initiative becomes more than wishful thinking, but rather a calculated venture. Under our plan, these examinations will be non-negotiable for license renewal. Within 12 to 18 months, every driver will face a digital literacy test supported by a network of accessible testing centers across the country. Pass, and you keep the privilege to drive in. Fail, and you face real consequences. Suspension, mandatory retraining, and financial penalties. And to keep the system honest, we will build a national driver's fitness base, a transparent, tamper-proof record to track compliance, expose fraud, and flag at-risk drivers before tragedy strikes. No more guessing, no more excuses. So I ask you not, can we afford to do this? But can we afford not to? Every accident prevented is a mother home
Honorable
tonight.
member, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is a mother home tonight, a child in school tomorrow, a breadwinner at work, and millions from hospital bills and less productivity. And to those who will call it unrealistic, I say the real fantasy is expecting the death toll to drop while we do nothing different. This is our choice. Excuses or action. Not tomorrow, not after the next funeral. No, let us pass this motion and prove that in this house, every Guyanese life matters. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Is there a seconder?
I second this motion.
Honorable members, the motion is proposed. I now call to the floor the Honorable Sachin Prasad, Shadow Minister of Home Affairs.
Madam Speaker, honorable members, I rise today in full support of our motion. Solutions to prevent the continuous increase of road accidents. Between January and June 2025, sourced by Newsroom, there were 54 fatal road accidents, resulting in 58 deaths, a 17% increase over the same period in 2024. This is not just a one-year anomaly. This is a record since 2020 shows no sustained reduction in fatalities. Every year, the problem persists, and in many years, it gets worse. These are not just statistics. They are funerals. They are empty classrooms, missing breadwinners, grieving families. Every number in the report carries a face and a life that can never be replaced. Madam Speaker, Guyana does not suffer from a shortage of laws. We suffer from the failure to enforce them consistently, transparently, and without fear or favor. This failure is not abstract. It is the direct reason lives are being lost. Let us be clear. Corruption in enforcement makes a traffic ticket negotiable. Negligence allows reckless drivers back on the road. Outdated methods leave dangerous behavior undetected until tragedy strikes. That is why this motion goes beyond penalties and rules. It targets the heart of the problem: enforcement. This is not just a road safety issue, it is a national security issue. If the public cannot trust the system that is meant to protect them, the rule of law itself is weakened. Our plan is comprehensive, proven, and ready to be implemented. It is built on four key pillars, each addressing a core weakness in our current road safety system. First, independent oversight with teeth. We must establish an enforcement oversight authority with full legal power to investigate and sanction misconduct and corruption. No exceptions, no immunity, no hidden deals. Without genuine accountability, Madam Speaker, every other measure becomes meaningless. Laws on paper are useless if those entrusted to enforce them are not held to the highest standard. Second, technology that can't be bribed. We will introduce automated traffic cameras, GPS speed tracking, and secure digital citations. These tools do not look the other way. They cannot be bribed, and they provide court-ready evidence that stands on facts, not favors. Jurisdictions worldwide have seen accident rates drop by as much as 30% within 2 years using these systems, proving that technology can close those gaps where human discretion fails. Third, professional and ethical training. Officer training must be redefined to go beyond traffic laws. It must embed ethics, anti-corruption protocols, and community trust building at its core. A badge must stand for safety, service, and integrity, not for selective enforcement or personal gain. The public must be able to trust that the person stopping them is there to protect, not exploit. Fourth, national public awareness and reporting system. We will educate citizens on traffic laws, make them aware of the dangers of reckless driving, and empower them to report unsafe or corrupt behavior. Crucially, these reports must be acted upon with transparency. Road safety is not solely the work of one ministry or one department, it is the duty of every Guyanese. When citizens become partners rather than bystanders, our roads will be safer for all. These measures are not experimental. They are grounded in international best practice, adapted for Guyana's realities, and backed by data. Countries like Sweden, through its Vision Zero approach, and India through its Zero Fatality Corridor project, have proven that fatality rates can be cut in half with a focused, integrated strategy. Madam Speaker, rejecting this motion is not just disagreeing with the opposition, it is endorsing the continuation of a deadly status quo. It means choosing evidence against solutions with a record of success. We cannot resurrect those 58 lives lost
Honorable
so far
member,
this
1
year.
minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. But we can and must draw a line and say, not another not another preventable death. The time to act is now. The evidence is in front of us. The choice is in our hands. Let us choose life. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. We will now call to the floor the Honorable Flavia Joseph, Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I, Flavia Joseph, rise as the Minister of Home Affairs to oppose the motion, Solutions to Prevent the Continuous Increase of Road Accidents. Over the past 5 years, the ministry has increased funding for the National Road Safety Council, launched public awareness campaigns, strengthened the Guyana Police Force Traffic Department, and pushed for legislative changes. This motion calls for annual physical, mental, and psychological tests for all drivers. While thorough in theory, such mass testing in Guyana would be extremely costly and logistically challenging, given our already stretched healthcare and administrative systems. Do we have enough certified psychologists to test hundreds of thousands annually? Wouldn't these resources be better used in urgent need of mental health care? And can drivers afford to be off the road for days to complete such testing? We do not oppose reducing road accidents. We seek workable, realistic solutions. The government is committed to finding them without shortcuts. Firstly, increasing police presence on roads can significantly improve compliance. Visible enforcement, as noted by the World Health Organization, deters speeding, drunk driving, and red light running. Secondly, we must be strict in enforcing our laws. Countries like Singapore and Sweden have achieved some of the lowest fatality rates through rigorous enforcement. Sweden's Vision Zero principle, which states no loss of life is acceptable, shows the impact of a culture shift in responsibility. Fines, license suspensions, and vehicle impounding serve as strong deterrents, particularly for repeat offenders. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Guyana Police Force, many accidents are due to speeding and drunk driving, both of which are already illegal, but still common because of inconsistent enforcement. Thirdly, technology can help. Smart traffic enforcement systems such as cameras and e-ticketing have reduced violation elsewhere and are now part of our road safety strategy. These systems, supported by DPI Guyana, allow targeted intervention in high-risk areas. Data from them helps identify problem zones for improved safety strategies. While the opposition points to a rise in fatal accidents, they overlook major progress. Child fatalities have dropped by 67% and total accidents by 4%, with declines in serious, minor, and damage-only categories. The rise in fatality is linked to speeding and helmet non-use among motorcyclists, matters of personal responsibility, not government neglect. The data reflects a system improving, though still facing targeted challenges. In conclusion, this motion does not present new or decisive actions. Its proposed measures already exist in some form. Instead of repeating existing measures, we must strengthen what works and hold all road users accountable. I urge that we oppose this motion and focus on practical steps that save lives now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Members of the House, I would like to just simply remind you and encourage you to be there for your fellow ministers as they are presenting. In addition to this, when knocking on the table, be mindful of the fact that we must still be able to hear the presenters. Thank you. We will now call upon the Honorable Javante Adams, the Shadow Minister of Public Works.
Madam Speaker, I rise today as the Shadow Minister of Public Works because the roads of Guyana are not just pathways, they are lifelines. And when they fail to protect us, so do we. I am no Da Vinci, but allow me to paint a vivid picture for this house. Not with paint or brush, but with sirens pierced in the night, glass glittering on the asphalt like deadly confetti, and headlines announce another preventable death every week. This is not art, it is the daily reality of Guyana's roads. From the fiery triple vehicle crash on West Coast Berbice that claimed the lives of 6 young people, to the countless collisions on unlit highways, the tragedy is painted daily in grief and loss. According to the Association for Safe International Road Travel, 2% of Guyana's roads remain unpaved, basic safety features like sidewalk, signage, and lighting. Infrastructure has the potential to lift families out of poverty while reducing inequalities. Yet, Madam Speaker, instead of eliminating the gap, roads are pushing the most vulnerable into danger.
The statistics are demon. Since 2020, road accidents and fatalities have climbed steadily with no significant reduction. The Ministry of Home Affairs 2025 traffic reports highlights a 17% increase in road fatalities in just the first half of 2025. And these are not numbers, they're mothers who will never have their children again. Whose laughter has been silenced, breadwinners whose families now faces an uncertain future. Known for that fatalities are rising. Why? Why are measures to reverse this deadly trend? And why should the people save lives? Truth is, were not lost due to the lack of laws. They were lost due to the lack of enforcement, weak safety measures, inadequate investment, and a crippling lack of urgency. Consider the Susdek to Linden Highway, a lifeline for the hinterland regions, yet so often a site of devastation. As of May, a car crash near Adventure claimed the lives of multiple people. Roads without lighting, signage, or clean are not just outdated, they are deadly. The opposition solutions are clear and interconnected. First, we call for mandatory driver health checks and penalties because safer roads require safer drivers. A well-marked crossing means little if the driver approaching it is unfit to be behind the wheel. A competent driver is still at risk if the roads beneath them are riddled with hazards. Second, revise the 206.3 billion public works budget to focus on road safety infrastructure such as sidewalks, pedestrian crossing, and speed reduction mechanism in highways. Third, we call for the nationwide installation of speed cameras, properly marked lanes, and safe pedestrian crossings. And we look beyond our borders. The Zero Fatality Corridor project has reduced road deaths by an astonishing 52% in just 4 years. Through engineering upgrades, drone patrols, and public awareness campaigns, Guyana can do the same, but only commitment and investment. To reject this motion is to accept
1 minute remaining.
To reject this motion is to accept preventable deaths as a cost of inaction. We say no more. We from the bustling streets of Georgetown to the unlit roads of Lethem deserves the right to travel safely. And I stand committed to ensuring that right is protected. The government waits for a tragedy to react. We work to prevent it. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, we begin to end the day. We become silent about the things that truly matter. The time for silence is gone. Now it's the time for action, for courage, and for justice before more lives are stolen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. We shall now call upon the Honorable Adelsa Solomon, Minister of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I rise not only as a member of the government, but as a concerned citizen, committed to ensuring the safety, efficiency, and accessibility for our nation roadways. Madam Speaker, everyday lives are cut short on the very roads we travel to work, school, and home. Reckless driving, speeding, and driving under influence are no mistakes. They are acts of negligence that take innocent lives. As a responsible citizen and leader, we cannot stand by while our streets become death traps. This motion is not just about road safety, it's about responsibility. The opposition proposed annual physical, mental, and psychological tests for all drivers, but ignores the real causes of accident and would overwhelm licensed services and burden law-abiding drivers. Testing over 150,000 drivers yearly would require at least 50 full-time doctors and cost over 10 million. 10 million better spent on education, enforcement, and infrastructures. Madam Speaker, between 2020 and 2025, We have rebuilt over 200 kilometers of road, upgraded 15 key bridges, and installed more than 120 traffic lights nationwide. We upgraded East Bank Denver Road, rehabilitated the Bartica Patara Road, and expanded the East Coast and East Bank highways, reducing travel time up to 30% and boosting economic activity. We built concrete roads in long neglected villages, such as number 43 on the East Coast and Parika on the West Coast. All of these are tangible results that we have made the carriageways better for motorists and pedestrians alike. Madam Speaker, on safety, we introduced 50 new speed zones in 2024, leading to a 40% increase in patrols and fewer accidents. We installed over 200 speed bumps, 500 reflectors, 60 pedestrian crossings, and 30 traffic lights in Region 2, 5, and 9. The opposition motion offered ideas without plans. They did not say how the proposal would be implemented, who would do the testing, or how would it be funded. Meanwhile, we are delivering results. We have trained 150 new traffic officers, provide breathalyzers and radar guns, conduct 25 school awareness campaign, reaching 10,000 students, and introduce digital monitoring at the 30 key intersection. While they repeat slogans, we implement solutions. While they're talking about change, we deliver it. Madam Speaker, we do not oppose road safety, we oppose empty politics. This motion pretends the government is doing nothing, when in reality we are implementing the most ambitious road safety program in our nation history. The nation does not want more speeches, they want results. Over the past 5 years, we have increased national infrastructure investment by 42%, transforming lives and building a safer future. This government stands on its record and for the people. I urge this honorable house to reject this motion because we are not standing behind the issue, we are leading the change. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We shall now call to the floor the Honorable Mohammed Hassan, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand today to oppose the motion moved by the Leader of the Opposition that seeks to prevent the continuous increase of road accidents. We all share the goal of increasing the safety of our roadways, especially with a 17% increase of fatal road accidents during the first half of 2025, with the main causes being reckless driving and driving under the influence, causes further restated by the World Health Organization. However, while this government supports stronger road safety measures, the proposal in this motion to implement annual examinations for every driver is not a practical, and I repeat that, practical or effective way forward. Madam Speaker, driving is a legal privilege that has become a necessity granted through initial testing and licensing, and it's a continued practice which is subjected to laws and periodic renewals. Annually testing 150,000 drivers, according to the GRA, is ridiculous because the Journal for Transport and Health states, and I quote, "There is currently no standardized, universally accepted assessment tool to evaluate driving fitness from a psychological perspective. The variability of cognitive demands during driving and the fluctuating mental states complicate reliable measurement." So, if no standardized testing exists, this means these tests will have to be personalized, which isn't feasible either due to the rate of mental change when acute stress is involved. As the National Library of Medicine notes, acute stress impairs the cognitive ability to regulate attention and behavior, often within moments. The World Health Organization states drivers have significantly higher markers of acute stress than office workers, showing that a mental examination for drivers cannot be a viable measure to ensure road safety due to the inherent unpredictability of mental states. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration state mental fitness to drive can change rapidly, and psychological tests alone are insufficient for guaranteeing road safety. But the opposition will point out that they're not just doing psychological tests, Which brings me to the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Act, Chapters 5102, an act in place which already calls for a medical certificate from a medical practitioner confirming overall fitness. An act that which prohibits license to individuals who have conditions that could impair safe driving. An act that empowers authorities to refuse or revoke license based on medical fitness. An act which says authorities may require medical examination if there is reason to believe a driver's health compromises road safety. An approach which better aligns with international best practices. And Madam Speaker, this is without going to how logistically unfit this motion is, when there being no way for the government to gain back the resources spent on it without implementing much higher licensing fees. For example, similar psychological examinations in Germany cost approximately 85,000 to 160,000 Guyana dollars, with results taking 2 to 4 weeks. So I ask the opposition to think what will happen to our nation's transportation if every year our drivers must take 2 or more weeks off and pay these high fees. While the intent of this motion is noble, the method proposed is impractical, inefficient, unsustainable, and disruptive. Therefore, this government cannot agree and urges members of this House to think logically and follow suit in rejecting this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. We shall now invite to the floor the Honorable Julia Tolstrom, the Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I never imagined I'd have to educate such an intelligent bunch. But I shall try. How do I even begin with this? So, I'll start first with the Minister of Home Affairs. They speak about the fact that this is going to be extremely costly, that drivers being off the road for days is an issue and so forth. But I have to remind you that economies lose around 5% of their GDP because of road crashes. They speak about resources being lost, but what about people? What about the lives being lost? What about them? Then I want to know, does the Home Ministry of Home Affairs agree or not agree? First, they say that they oppose the motion, yet they also wish to employ the same things that the Shadow Minister of Public Works and Shadow Minister of Home Affairs had said. They said that they would want to enforce the law, but we want that as well. They talk about technology, while the Shadow Minister of Public Works has said that. Get it right. Be serious. Do you care about these lives or not? Because we need to make a change. Now, next, let me move on to the public works. Okay. We talk about strengthening what works, about the costly infrastructure, and not delivering results. Yet, we talk about road bumps and we talk about speed bumps and road signs, but is that clearly enough? As the Shadow Minister of Public Works said, there is a dangerous amount of unpaved roads. Imagine having to stand right next to a truck inches away as it passes next to you. No sidewalks, not enough pedestrian crosses. There is not enough. We need to implement better modern roads, not just continue enforcing the same thing over and over, because guess what? There's a 17% increase in only the first half of 2025. What does that mean? It means we aren't doing enough. So I call upon the government to reread their role in the Constitution. This isn't about political point scoring. It is about stopping the silent epidemic that has claimed far too many lives of our citizens. You may choose to defend the status quo, but we choose to defend lives. You may believe our proposal is too bold, too ambitious, too unrealistic. But what did I say? I said it was unrealistic that you think the death toll will continue to go down without trying something different. We need to be real. History will remember that we acted not as divided benches, but as a united house. Madam Speaker, the opposition will not be remembered for hesitation. We will be remembered for drawing the line and saying enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of the Opposition. That concludes the debate on the motion. I now put the question. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Let's have it. The motion is carried.
We have it. We have it.
Honorable members, the next motion stands in the name of the Honorable Shadow Minister of Health. Honorable Princess Stevens, you may proceed.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, would you watch your home burn to the ground before lifting a bucket of water? That is exactly how Guyana treats mental health, ignoring the first sparks, dismissing the smoke, and only acting when the fire is raging out of control. Did you know Guyana is second in the world for suicide rates? 40 deaths per 100,000 people, 4 times the global average. This is not bad governance, members of the government. This is dangerous governance. Today, as Shadow Minister of Health, I move this motion to expand access to mental health facilities and dismantle the stigma that strangles life in silence. This is not a political luxury. It's a national emergency. Did you know WHO 2022 reports we have just one psychiatrist per 100,000 people and fewer than 50 psychologists for the entire country, most in Georgetown. That leaves regions 1, 7, 8, and 9 already battling isolation and poverty without real access to care. The government will say, we have a 6-year national mental health action plan, a mental health court, and a telemedicine pilot. Let me be clear, plans on paper do not save lives. The action plan is a promise without performance. The court is a framework without trained professionals to support it. Did you know HAHO's own Caribbean telemedicine review confirms that virtual mental health care fails where there's no electricity or internet? That means vast stretches of our hinterland, our riverine communities remaining untouched. And even where it works, it cannot, and I repeat, it cannot replace the value of in-person care, where a trained professional can see what a screen can't. A trembling hand, a broken gaze, a silent cry for help. Let's be real. If we barely have enough trained mental health professionals for in-person services, then who exactly is behind the screens? And what of stigma, the silent killer? WHO's Caribbean Mental Health Review confirms it is still the biggest barrier to seeking help. Did you know women with depression are often dismissed as dramatic and women with anxiety are told to man? Okay, these are not harmless words. They're verbal padlocks, locking people inside their pain. Kaitro News, January 2025 said it plainly. Mental illnesses are treatable, but stigma stops people from seeking help. In communities where mental illness is taboo, even the strongest individuals remain silent for fear of ridicule. This motion attack stigma head on through peer-led, culturally rooted programs in every community, led by people residents already trust. It calls for psychology, education in secondary schools so the next generation sees mental health as strength and not shame. It demands mobile outreach, teams that bring care to where people live, not where it's convenient for a budget line. It pushes for in-person mental health assessment in underserved areas where telemedicine fails, ensuring early identification and intervention before a crisis escalates. And for those who will ask, how will we pay for it? Well, we already have the funds. In 2024, the government pledged 5%. Yes, the government pledged 5% of the national health budget to mental health, Guyana Chronicle. Did you know that promise has yet to be fully delivered? This isn't about new taxes. It's about keeping your own word and funding professionals, infrastructure, and outreach that actually work. Madam Speaker, inaction is the most expensive choice we can make. Untreated mental illness weakens our economies, destabilizes communities, and shatters our families. We're not just losing lives, we're losing our potential, we're losing our productivity, we're losing our peace. Vote for this motion or be prepared to tell the next grieving family why you didn't. Mental health is not charity, it is survival, it is justice, it is our responsibility. These are not luxuries, they're pillars of a stronger, healthier, better, one Guyana. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable member. Is there a seconder? Honorable members, the motion is proposed. I now invite to the floor the Honorable Shiv Basmir, Shadow Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, every day in Guyana, there is a student who endures pain without speaking out. Depression, suicide, anxiety, and trauma are more than just a few words. They are real challenges that quietly destroy students and teachers' ability to learn and succeed in life. As the Shadow Minister of Education, I stand in full support of this motion. We cannot build a strong education system if we continue to ignore the emotional and psychological well-being of the students in our classrooms. According to the World Health Organization's 2019 data, our suicide rate was about 40.9 per 100,000 people, nearly 4 times the global average, and it is the second highest worldwide. The Pan-American Health Organization confirms that stigma remains the largest barrier in seeking health care across the Caribbean. In Guyana, there is fewer than 1 psychiatrist per 100,000 people, but yet many of them still no. Yes, the government has built over 40 and new and upgraded secondary schools, but still they operate without the trained mental health support and the mental health staff necessary. This crisis is not medical, it is educational. Students drop out or act out as they silently bear invisible burdens. This motion tackles the pillars between access and stigma, integrating basic psychology and mental health literacy into the curricula, normalizes emotional well-being, and builds resilience. Teachers must be equipped to handle mental health issues in the classroom. Schools should be linked with the 915 suicide prevention hotline, the mental health website, and the awareness campaigns funded by the Ministry of Health. Annual free mental health screenings for our students and public school staff should become a standard with clear referral pathways. Reaching the new mental health court. Mobile mental health outreach units must serve coastal and hinterland schools that lack in-house support. Despite the Mental Health Protection and Promotion Act 2022 and the National Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Plan 2024 to 2030, the health minister himself admitted many of the measures from the previous plan were not achieved. and rollout outside Georgetown remains limited. The National Psychiatric Hospital is in a sad state, and Guyana still has only 2 inpatient rehabilitation facilities. This is why this motion calls for a raising in the mental health budget allocation from under 1% to at least 5%, because the real cost is in inaction, not in investment. Prevention will always be cheaper than crisis management. Some may argue these steps are already in place, but these programs are limited, under-resourced, and unevenly distributed. Others may claim mental health is not education sector's responsibility, but education is not just about passing exams, it's about the readiness to learn. A child who is depressed cannot perform well in class. If prevention does not begin here, we will keep on producing students who are unprepared for life. Madam Speaker, let us be the parliament that breaks the silence, one that looks beyond the grades and sees the whole child. Let us ensure every Guyanese student knows it is okay to ask for help and that help will be there. This motion is not a burden on the budget. It is an investment on the nation's human capital. Mental health must no longer be a whisper. It must be a right, a reality, and a national priority. And if anyone in this house believes that protecting our students' minds is negotiable, then they must be prepared to answer to the parents who bury their children far too soon. This motion is not about politics. It is about saving lives. Support it and we save them. Oppose it and you will have to explain why. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now call upon the Honorable Zakil Narain, the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today not merely to respond to the motion brought before us, but to defend the truth against well-meaning, yes, miscall that overlook the work already being done. By no means is the current framework perfect, but the current motion proposed an already implemented strategy with new paint and presents it to us as an original idea. Members of the opposition, this cannot work. In a world already saturated with false news and misinformation, the responsibility falls on the elected government to set the record straight. Guyana is in no urgent need of further investment in the development of mental health related infrastructure. Neither is there a current lack of appropriately effective educational programs in schools or otherwise. On the surface, who could oppose such a cause? Yet, as the saying goes, you do not put an already baked cake back into the oven unless you want to burn it. Allow me to introduce the holistic definition of mental health as provided to us by WHO. And I quote, "The state of well-being where individuals realize their own abilities, cope with the normal stress of life, work productively, and contribute to their community." End of quote. It further posits, and I quote, "It encompasses our emotional, psychological, and social well-being and affects how we think, feel, and behave. Good mental health is not just about the absence of mental illness. It is a resource for living a healthy life and a key factor in the overall health." End quote. Therefore, from the definition provided, we have ascertained that mental illness and poor mental health are not one and not the same. However, this motion fails to identify the crucial difference entirely neglecting the necessary consideration for addressing the unique realities of individuals suffering from title. Further, the motion suggests a universal blanket approach that seeks for, and I quote, "immediate development and implementation of educational facilities and programs in secondary schools, catering to the teaching of psychology." Might I remind you, psychology is a specialized behavioral science, and to fully grasp it and its impact, it must take time. We then ask, is this a compulsory addition to the already laid secondary school curriculum? Let me answer that question. Considering the HFLE curriculum in school currently serves the exact purpose and is tried, tested, and proven as an effective and beneficial tenet of moral and social education. Madam Speaker, as we to believe that a concrete or wooden shack with psychology paste down by some clear Scotch shape, or even better, a professional sign, please, is not the answer to youth mental health. If so, why was this not done before? Well, let me answer. It does not. Instead of obsessing over wood and cement, this government believes in the perpetuation evolution of the availability of educational resources to all Guyanese, especially for matters as pertinent as this. As such, this government is not waiting for guidance, applause, or headlines. We're already in motion. The Guyana National Suicide Prevention Plan, initially implemented in 2015, was directly related to suicide prevention. This plan subsequently 32% fall in the recorded suicide rate in the following 4 years, and further revised in 2024 to revitalize the ongoing fight against suicide, directly aimed to conquer the recent evaluated suicide rates by strengthening mental health services at the community and provide comprehensive mental health and social care that responds to the population needs. Not just students, not just public sector, but all Guyanese benefit. Concerning, yes, but our efforts prove we do care. Madam Speaker, we believe we can always do
Minister, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we believe we can always do more, and to ensure the sanity and mental well-being of our citizens, no price is too great. As such, we must acknowledge the motion presented does not do this matter justice and needs more specific and tailored approaches to fully address the entire scope of mental health issues. Madam Speaker, this is not just about infrastructure. It is about people, our people. People that in revising this motion, the opposition can provide a structured, strategic, and sustainable approach that benefits and builds on already established framework. Our young people deserve mental health care that is thoughtful, trained, and trauma-informed, not hurry experiment for political points. Members of the opposition, I ask you to think about it. Get your definition straight. Thank you.
Thank you to the Honorable Minister. I shall now call upon the Honorable Diona Stanislaus, Shadow Minister within the Ministry of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable members of the Youth Parliament, good morning. The motion before us, increasing access to mental health facilities and reducing stigma. It is not simply a health sector issue. It is a national issue. It is an infrastructure issue. It is a public work issue. As the Shadow Minister within the Ministry of Public Works, I can tell you, infrastructure is a bridge, both literally and figuratively, between our citizens and the help they desperately need. But let me be clear, building facilities alone will not solve the problem if the people cannot get to them, if the people cannot afford the journey, if the people cannot or fear being publicly labeled for seeking care. Access is about connection, safety, and dignity. In support of this motion, our ministry can directly deliver on that vision by ensuring roads and bridges function year-round so that the rainy seasons never cut off entire communities from reaching their nearest health center. We can expand affordable, reliable public transportation for patients from regions 1, 7, 8, and 9, enabling them to reach advanced care in Georgetown or regional hubs without facing unbearable costs. We can deploy mobile outreach units integrated into our roads and water services routes, bringing trained mental health professionals directly into our village and settlements, particularly in the hinterland regions where access is most limited. We can adopt discrete multi-use facility design, embedding mental health services within all community centers so individuals can seek help without stigma or walking into standalone mental institution. This is not hypothetical. We already know from Culture News, the PAHO data that stigma is strongest in the areas where services are distant, difficult to reach, and we also know that Guyana has fewer than one psychiatrist per 100 people, 100,000 people, and many rural residents must travel hours, sometimes days, to reach a professional. That is not health ministry problem alone. That is our public work problem. When the government say stigma is the main barrier, they are right, but stigma thrives in isolation. You break stigma by making services a normal part of everyday life. That's what infrastructure can do. Normalize access by putting care in the spaces people already use and by making the journey safe, affordable, and private. If anyone in this house argues that public works has no role, they're arguing that roads, transportation, and public buildings has no role in the access to health care. That what means abandoning every citizen in the hinterland who cannot fly or drive to Georgetown for care. That would mean accepting that geography determines whether a person lives or dies. I do not believe any member here is willing to make that call. We in the opposition say yes. Invest in the facilities. Yes, invest in stigma reduction campaigns, but do not ignore the very foundation that makes both possible, the infrastructure that connects our people to health. Madam Speaker, increasing access and reducing stigma is not just the work of doctors and nurses. It is the work of engineers, road builders, transport planners, and community designers. That is public works. That is our duty. Let us not be misled by illusion that more buildings equals more acceptance. Let us not confuse ourselves with infrastructure and impact. Let us stand together in solidarity with our people who suffer in silence. Let us be the change that our communities need. As Shadow Minister within the Ministry of Public Works,
Honorable Member, 1 minute remaining.
this motion, increasing access to mental health facilities. I urge this honorable house to support this motion, not just to build, but to connect, to protect, and to ensure that no Guyanese suffers in silence because the road to health was too far to travel. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now call to the floor the Honorable Akila Edwards, Minister within the Ministry of Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to oppose the motion presented by the opposition that calls for further investment into mental health infrastructure. Madam Speaker, with all due respect, I must strongly and unapologetically exclaim that this motion, though well-meaning, is entirely divorced from the reality of what our country actually needs. The word increase, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is defined, and as I quote, become or make greater in size, amount, or degree, end quote. The context, however, is used to suggest that the current state of mental health is insufficient. I must implore that in moments of doubt, instead of consolidating our fears, we seek clarity and understanding above all. Madam Speaker, this government recognized the bleak narrative painted by the motion in the first whereas clause that identifies the current average rate of suicides as, I quote, 40 suicides per 100,000 people, end quote. This motion currently places emphasis on the ongoing struggle between the people of this great nation and suicide. However, in this current form, it suggests a theoretical blanket approach to this crisis in further clauses. And I quote, immediate implementation of education facilities and programs in secondary schools, catering to the teaching of psychology. Madam Speaker, be not deceived. This government recognizes the aforementioned statistic. It is imperative that the strategy presented provides a comprehensive approach to mental health issues, understanding the nuance and complexity of the task and accommodates all Guyanese. Madam Speaker, this is by no means an entirely bad motion, as we, the government, recognize salient initiatives present in the proposition. Notably, and I quote, the interrogation of the new mental health court, end quote, the motion further calls for the involvement of the police force and child protection agencies to further bolster the range of rehabilitative options and, I quote, direct access to therapeutic services instead of interrogation.
End quote. We agree on the power of education and the importance of knowledge as such. Permit me to enlighten this honorable house. The mental health court is not a physical court. No building was commissioned, no infrastructure delegated, just the collection of minds with a will, purpose, and a singular goal. That is to see the offenders with mental health issues and constraints are provided access to justice that appropriately accounts for their situation. Again, we repeat, with evidence provided from a UNICEF article dated June 2025, and I quote, though it does not have a dedicated physical location, the mental health processes will be streamlined across respective magistrate courts in Guyana, end quote. Highlighting that a new initiative does not need a new house, but can be functional and productive roommates in already established residence. Build, build, build. We must address this busybody approach, this Bob the Builder mindset. Let this fix-it-feel-it fascination. Lest we become like the inhabitants of the Tower of Babel and lose more than what we bargained for in our attempt to touch the sky. Because I am not Bob the Builder. We do not build for style and fashion.
Honorable Minister, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We do not build for style and fashion. We don't buy wheels for rentals. We invest in the permanent and guaranteed betterment of our citizens. Madam Speaker, building is good, great even. And it is refreshing to know that this honorable house intends to keep the spirit of masonry and carpentry alive. However, this government wishes not to squander our financial resources on redundant infrastructural projects. If the motion suggested the construction of specialized mental health research centers, even mental health institutions, to assist in the facilitation of quote-unquote free diagnosis for students and members of the public sector, as mentioned in the final clause, this government would have considered. However, since the requested for education facilities at the secondary level, allow me to present some revolutionary information. Education facilities that satisfy
Sir, your time is done.
Thank you, Madam.
Permission granted to the Honorable Minister for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Education facilities that satisfy this need already exist. Madam Speaker, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I give you schools. Schools, are those not enough education facilities that we have? I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now call to the floor the Honorable Timothy Mahabir, Shadow Minister of Housing and Water.
Madam Speaker, I, Timothy Mohabir, Shadow Minister of Housing and Water, rise in unwavering support of the motion increasing access to mental health facilities and reducing stigma. This is not merely a health initiative. It is a foundational reform. It's about reshaping our home environment so that healthy minds can flourish, have safe shelter, reliable water, and connected communities. Poor housing conditions and insufficient infrastructure do not only harm the body, they erode the mental well-being. I speak today for Guyanese who lack proper housing, who suffer in silent despair, for children who live in impoverished homes, and for every Guyanese told, it's all in your head. When we compare our neighbors in their friends' houses and purified water, while we are left with our unclean water, think about how much damage this does to our mental health. Guyana is facing a mental health crisis that cannot be ignored. According to World Health Organization 2024, the nation ranks second in the world for suicide, with approximately 40 deaths per 100,000 people. Yearly, nearly 4 times the global average of 9 per 100,000. The Pan American Health Organization identifies stigma as the single most significant barrier to care, silencing those in need. Yet, even when Guyanese seek treatment, access remains scarce. Guyana has only 3 certified psychologists nationwide. For residents in remote areas like Maruka or the Rupununi, getting regular mental help can mean traveling for hours or even days. This combination of high prevalence, youth vulnerability, persistent stigma, and severe shortage of services paints a somber picture that demands urgent and comprehensive action. The government may pinpoint our present mental health court or telemedicine programs, but telemedicine fails where there is no electricity or reliable internet in our most remote villages such as Mango Creek, Region 8. I, as a Shadow Minister of Housing and Water, therefore use my parliamentary vote to support housing initiatives designed to include trusted, accessible spaces for counseling and peer support, ensuring that help is available where people live. Mental health teams can be deployed alongside water distribution networks, bringing outreach to remote and underserved regions. Furthermore, the design of homes themselves can promote mental wellness through adequate light, ventilation, privacy, and safety critical elements in preventing anxiety, depression, and trauma. Beyond infrastructure, our housing ministry can lead stigma reduction efforts from the ground up, implementing peer-led campaigns where trusted community voices break down barriers and encourage open conversations about mental health. Hence, I fully support a coordinated effort through housing and water, health, education, and social services tested in high-need areas, then scaled nationally to save in healthcare costs, improve productivity, and reduce criminalization. Madam Speaker, let us not be parliament known for plans that never reach our people. Let this be the one that bridges roofs with compassion, taps with care, and infrastructure with healing. Every Guyanese deserves not just shelter, but water, but mental peace. The time to act is not tomorrow. It is now. Mental health is wealth. Mental health is human. Mental health is a right. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now call to the floor the Honorable Santino Sotocento, Minister of Housing and Water.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to address the motion brought up by the Honorable Opposition. While I commend the intent behind this motion because mental health is indeed a matter that affects individuals, families, and communities across our nation, I must respectfully oppose it in its current form. Though well-meaning, it overlooks the significant progress already being made by this government in this critical area. Mental health is a national concern. It is a threat as such. It is treated as such through the National Mental Health Action Plan 2021 to 2025, which outlines clear strategies for increasing access to mental health services, improving training for mental health professionals, most importantly, raising awareness to fight. This approach goes far beyond simply increasing clinical facilities. It addresses the root causes of poor mental health, many of which are tied directly to living conditions, housing stability, and community development. Research globally and locally indicates that adequate housing and reliable water access drastically reduces stress, anxiety, and depression. Stable living conditions means parents can raise their children in safe environments. Young people can focus on their education, and communities can grow stronger. We are expanding rural and hinterland water systems so that no citizen is left to suffer the mental burden of wondering where's their next clean drop of water will come from. Madam Speaker, it is important that we understand that mental instability is the mind's reaction to a particularly stressful or emotional taxing experience. This shift in mental health is not indicative of insanity. As such, we are resolute that there is no one size fits all approaches to mental health issues. Considering all the encompassing scope of poor mental health, extreme grief, loss of a loved one, loss of unemployment, and in some instances, extreme mental disorders. While one might require a systemic and structured approach that incorporates medical practices and rehabilitative techniques, there are other requires a hug, a laugh, and in some extreme instances, a rude boy or two. We recognize that mental health is not treated solely in clinics. It is supported in our homes, schools, workplace, and even places of worship. That is why our strategy invests in integrated development rather than supply increasing facilities without addressing the conditions that leads people there in the first place. Considering the definition, mental health provides tenants and strongly suggests that the absence of one or the other indicates a state of poor mental health. It is safe to conclude that the treatment of mental illness and poor mental health cannot be the same. Madam Speaker, the opposition motion risks funneling resources into facility expansion without equally investing in prevention and community strengthening. This government policies do both. We are reducing stigma, not by words, but by action, not by introducing a program into schools to manufacture interest in a very important aspect of everyday life. Interest that will likely evaporate once the individual is no longer mandated to attend. For these reasons, Madam Speaker, I cannot support this motion in its current form. Instead, I call on all the members to join in recognizing and reinforcing the work that is already building the Guyana healthier, more resilient Guyana we envision. I urge this Parliament to recognize
Member, 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I urge this Parliament to recognize the steps already being taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now call to the floor the Honorable Abjit Prasad, Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, mental health is not a Georgetown conversation. It is a Guyana conversation. And right now, that conversation is painfully one-sided because too many voices are being silenced by stigma, distance, and neglect. From Mania to Mabaruma, Rosal to Port Tuma, mental health services are not just scarce, they're basically non-existent. Guyana loses around 4 people per 100,000 to suicide each year, stated by Washington University 2025. One of the highest rates in the world. Yet we have fewer than one psychiatrist per 100,000 citizens. Starbucks News 2024. And nearly all of them are based in Georgetown. If you live in Region 8 or 9, getting help often means packing a bag, finding the money for transport, and traveling for days or simply going without. That is not just inconvenient, it is cruel. And it's not just about services, it's about the shame that keeps people from even asking. The Pan American Health Organization, February 2025, says stigma is still one of the top reasons people skip treatment. In too many communities, mental illness is still seen as a weakness, or worse, a disgrace. Women with depression are labeled as dramatic. Men with anxiety told to man up. Faith and family matter, yes, but so does access to trained professionals who can treat illness, not just spray it away. Let us be real, Madam Speaker. This is a budget choice. Less than 1% the national budget goes to mental health. That number is not just low, it is shamefully sector that save lives and then acting surprised when the death toll rises. As Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, I know this solution starts where people live. That means putting trained counselors and social workers in local health centers in every region, not just Region 4. It means equipping schools, clinics, outreach hubs with the tools to spot trouble early. It means peer-led, culturally tailored programs that work with, not against community values. We can make this happen. It's not impossible. It is overdue. We have seen success when local health centers in Region 7 and 9 use telecounseling as a bridge. But a bridge without a road on either end is useless. Telemedicine must be paired with real in-person support so that when the internet drops or the power goes out, a crisis line doesn't turn into a deadline. Yes, I can already hear the government saying we have plans. Madam Speaker, plans on paper are not services on ground. Communities in the hinterland can take a PDF to the clinic when they're in crisis. A motion like this forces those plans into action. Not in 5 years, not in the next cycle. Oh. This is not about creating a shiny project for a press release. It's about changing the day-to-day reality for people in every corner of Guyana. It's about ensuring a teenager gets counseling before she reaches her breaking point. It's about ensuring a farmer in Region 7 doesn't feel his only way out is in his life. We are not just talking about health. We are talking about the survival of our communities, the safety of our children, and the productivity of our nation. Mental health is not a soft issue, it is a survival issue. And we cannot afford to wait until the headlines scream another tragedy. Support this motion. Be prepared to stand before the nation and explain why you turned your back when a child's silent scream could have been answered. The government says to clock it, but instead you should be looking at the end. Come on. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I shall now call upon the Honorable Ronson Hart, Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today not out of disregard for mental health, but out of I write today not out of disregard for mental health and the ramification thereof, but out of a profound sense of responsibility to our nation's health system, our societal values, and our fiscal priorities. Okay? The Minister of Health boldly stand in support of my colleagues in an unfortunate disagreement with this honorable motion that in its current state performs a substantial disservice to the people of this nation. Madam Speaker, the World Health Organization defines mental health as, and I quote, a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with their stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn and work well, and contribute to their community. End of quote. Let me begin by asking, what does increasing access to mental health truly mean? Does it mean more psychologists, more psychiatrists, mobile clinics, subsidies, teletherapy platforms. This ambiguity serves to add further confusion to an already convoluted but matter. Additionally, we wish to discover the answers to the questions that arise from an attempt at a comprehension of this unfortunate, incomplete motion. To further expound on this precedent provided by my fellow ministers before, I too must ask, what really is mental health? As the term has been tossed around like a hot potato, while in reality being a particularly complex and indispensable facet of one's comprehensive well-being. As such, it is my civic, personal, and professional obligation to provide clarity. The motion presented draws conclusion in the first whereas clause that our annual suicide rate is the direct result of three identified factors: cultural stigmas, limited access to mental health facilities, and spiritual remedies. Ladies and gentlemen, where makeup is the standard, let us not be led astray by pretty words and colorful conclusions. Deception is an art piece, and we are not Picassos. We do not believe that this conclusion encompasses the reality of suicide in our country. Furthermore, it neglects to consider any other contributing factor like financial struggles, relationship issues, and large socio-economic issues. These are people, and the government will not condone this trivialization or real issues, nor this generalization or strategies
Minister, 1 minute remaining.
to address them. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The final clause suggests free diagnosis for all students and public sector employees, and as such provokes many questions. What then is our citizens unfortunately employed in the private sector are we a government of compartmentalization and segregation? Are these citizens not equally deserving of this groundbreaking solution to mental illness? Further still, what of the unemployed high school graduate or drop out as the parmenters establish disqualifies them also from this benefit. Further consideration that the fourth whereas clause identifies.
Permission granted for 1 minute for the Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Further consideration that the fourth whereas clause identifies a current national shortage of clinical psychiatrists. Who then does the motion suggest conducts these diagnoses? Madam Speaker, our people deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now call to the floor the Honorable Princess Stevens, Shadow Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, honorable members of this House, it seems the government strategy today is less about debate and more about damage control. They have spoken at length about their plans, their initiatives, their roadmaps. But let's be honest, Ghana is not short on plans. We are drowning in them. What we are short on is delivery. And when it comes to mental health, delays are deadly. The government boasts about long-term action plans, claiming they are laying the foundation for change. But let's be honest, Madam Speaker, people facing mental health crises cannot wait years for results. A slow, drawn-out timeline in the face of an urgent crisis is not a solution. It's a delay that costs lives. While they map out strategies on paper, the reality outside these walls is that communities remain underserved, families remain unsupported, and stigma remains unbroken. That is not progress, it's procrastination disguised as a policy. Let us be clear. There are three main areas where the government's case crumbles under its own weight. Firstly, the Honorable Minister of Education stated that they have implemented strategies. However, my colleague, the Shadow Minister of Education, highlighted that these same strategies are under-resourced and unevenly distributed. Furthermore, where are the statistics to support these frivolous claims made by the MOE? Are you sure that HFLE can compensate for the complexities of psychological practices? Madam Speaker, this is not an abstract policy. This is not an abstract policy flaw. This is a real world failure with real world consequences. Secondly, the Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Public Works mentioned that psychology education should be for all Guyanese. Yes, I agree. I, the Shadow Minister of Education, clearly stated in my speech that programs should be implemented in every community led by people residents already trust. You're not Bob the Builder, okay? Because your proposals build nothing but corruption. How about instead becoming fix-it ceilings? And even if they try to sidestep the fact that the truth is unavoidable, the people most in need are the ones that they have left behind. Finally, the Honorable Minister of Housing and Water mentioned that we can't just implement clinics, but also focus on providing water and better housing. And again, I agree. That is why the 5% of the national budget dedicated to mental health needs to be better used. As I stated in my speech, we need to fund professionals, infrastructure, and outreach that actually works. Additionally, how can you think to mention rude boys and in the same breath highlight the importance of religious places, especially knowing that alcohol is a cause of mental health? As my colleague, the Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Development stated, lock in members of the government. Which brings us to the harshest truth of all their own promises and budget allocations are proof they could do more, but choose not to. Madam Speaker, the difference is clear. The government is offering plans, we are offering action. They are offering excuses, we are offering access. They are offering a future, maybe. We are fighting for a life now. So I say this to the government benches. If you vote against this motion, you will need to look the next grieving family in the eye and tell them that a plan on paper was worth more than their loved one's life. Support this motion or be prepared to owe the consequences. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member. That concludes the debates on the motion. I now put to the question. Those in favor say aye. Those in favor say no. Division, Mr. Clerk.
Miss Diona Stanislaus, Miss Serena Scott,
No.
Miss Mr. Abhijit Prasad,
Yes.
Ms. LaShawn Samuels,
Members of the House, honorable members of the House, we will act with dignity as well as respect. Please calm down.
Mr. Michael Brutus, Mr. Timothy Mohabir, Ms. Catherine Abraham, Mr. Sebastian Khan,
Yes.
Ms. Anaya Bennett, Ms. Emily Bisnoff, Mr. Sachin Prasad,
Aye.
Mr. Shiv Bisember, Miss Princess Stephen, Mr. Javante Adams, Miss Sapna Prasad, Miss Janae Anthony, Miss Lillian Thomas, Miss
Once
Bernie
more,
Dioda,
I'm asking the members of the House to act in a dignified manner.
Miss Julia Tusiram. Miss Akila Edwards,
No, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Bharat Dasrat.
No.
Miss Arima Drayton.
No.
Miss Shreya Ramnarayan.
No.
Miss Samaya Ramcharan.
No.
Mr. Santino Sorosantono.
No.
Miss Zaraya Burnett.
No.
Miss Serena Bahadur. Miss Aisha Mendonca.
No.
Miss Juliana Fernandez.
No, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Rahim Rasul.
No.
Miss Flavia Joseph.
No.
Mr. Ezekiel Narayan.
No.
Mr. Ronson Hart.
No.
Miss Adelcy Solomon.
No.
Miss Michaela Reed.
No, no, no.
Miss Ciara Hernandez.
Once again, I'm calling on the honorable members to act in a dignified manner within this House. Failing to abide with this will lead to serious consequences.
Mr. Jaquel White. Mr. Tafawa Adridge. Miss Christiana Gill. Mr. Mohammed Hussein.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. I call a point of order. I can't call? Okay.
Madam Speaker, 18 members voted in favor of the motion, 22 members voted against the motion, and 0 members abstained.
Honorable member. Honorable members, the motion is negatized. Honorable members, this brings us to the end of our business on the order paper for this morning. Honorable Prime Minister, you may move the adjournment. The Assembly now stands adjourned to 1 p.m. today, 15th of August, 2025.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what an incredible day it has been in this chamber. Our junior youth parliamentarians have truly lived up to the spirit of our theme, our generation, our voice, inspire, encourage, impact. As the judges complete their tally, we would like to hear from you, those in attendance, our mentors, teachers, past youth parliamentarians, and those who are seated in the public gallery. We would like to hear from you as well. So please share your brief remarks and words of encouragement to the youth parliamentarians of the junior category. And remember to use a microphone that is closest to you so that we may hear you. All right? So we're just awaiting I know the judges are going to have a difficult task of tallying these scores. So in the meantime, I would like to open the floor, like I said earlier, for persons to share brief remarks. And I don't want to have to be the one to call on anyone, to put that out there. But I will say I'm the first person I'm seeing is one of our youth parliamentarians, previous youth parliamentarians, and I know she has a lot to say. So I will invite her to the podium to share a few remarks. And I understand how it is. I understand we've been here for quite a while and we're hungry and all these things. But, go ahead.
All right, a pleasant afternoon to each and every one of you here. Well, year go, year come, it's always an honor, a privilege to be part of this wonderful opportunity. I must congratulate each and every one of you. We know that the judge's decision is final, but count yourself winners, not because the government might say this side or that side. Win, we all are winners here, right? So don't be discouraged, don't be dismayed. I encourage all of you here that is listening to me, go back to your community, go back to your region, go back to your school, right? And make that impact. Continue to make that impact. Encourage the young people to speak out on matters that concerns them, right? We all have our voice, and that is what Parliament is here for, to hear those concerns that you have. And here is where decision is made. So count yourself blessed to be here, and congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much. I'm seeing some comments. Floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the government mentors of the junior category, we'd like to say congratulations to both sides on a job well done. Now that the debates are finished, just get acquainted with one another. We're now a big family. You're not gonna really remember the debate so much, but you'll remember each other. You'll remember being here and this experience. So it was very wonderful listening to all of you. I'd like to think that it wasn't what you expected. Going to the hotels and working hard and being late in the nights and rehearsing. I'm sure it was a wonderful and enriching experience. I'm hoping to see all of these young, bright faces in the future when our paths cross again. So once again, on behalf of all the government mentors, congratulations and, go do great things. Thank you.
That is what I like about the youth parliament. The fact that we can have the previous youth parliamentarians here to share their experiences with you. And I am pretty sure that those experiences that they would have gained over the years, especially when they participated in the youth parliament, took them a far way. We have another youth parliamentarian who is going to like to invite him to share brief remarks.
Good day, everyone. I am thoroughly impressed, not only by the presentations that, of course, we helped and we assisted and we mentored and we steered and we guided, but of also the responses and propositions of the opposition side. And today, there we go. I'm glad I didn't have to say it, because one thing I love is spirited debate and competition. And that was seen this year, the 10th annual Youth Parliament, the first and second sitting. So give yourselves a round of applause. Again, my character in the initial stages of this experience, of course, is going to be heavily biased towards whichever side I am supporting and representing. And the other side, I am going to be a staunch irritant to you and everything you stand for. Of course, I'm very emotive. I'm going to be looking, I'm going to be heckling with my body. But of course, I do support you. My favorite thing is to be annoyed by the opposition. That's so I know you actually understand what you came here to do. And I am so proud of you. Right. Now we got the strangers out of the way. You guys were exceptional. To the young people, exceptional. On behalf of myself and all of the government mentors, we are an Aaron that has not been able to see anything at all because Aaron is very busy. On behalf of Aaron, we are proud of you. You guys did exceptionally well. And of course, as much as I dislike saying this, we are all winners. But of course, you guys did great. It doesn't matter who won, because it could be 1 point, it could be 2 points, you might never know. It doesn't matter. But you guys all did yourselves justice, and your parents are proud, your schools are proud. Breathe. Have a good day.
First of all, thank you for those brief remarks. And secondly, when he spoke about winning, we saw what he did there, right? You guys saw what he did there? Yes, his side, yeah, we saw. He's on the winning side. Okay, sir. The next person that I'm going to invite to the podium to share her remarks, she is what I considered a day one. I have known her for quite some time, and she has been an inspiration to those persons who worked along with her, as well as the previous youth parliamentarians. They all have glowing remarks about her. I would like to invite to the podium Miss Wilson, Ruth Wilson.
Good morning, judges and youth parliamentarians. Before I begin, I want to tell you, give yourself another round of applause, as you would say. There are two things that I want to say. One is that it really warmed my heart the way that you were all supportive of each other. When you saw someone fumbling or, they got a bit nervous, it showed, good character of each of you, and it showed how much you cared for what the other person was saying, not only what they were saying, but also because of who they are, and so that is something that I want to commend you all for. The second thing that I want to say, and that I want to leave with you today, is all of the things that you have learned today, or the things that you have learned over the past couple of weeks that we've been working with you, the research that you've been doing, the corrections that your mentors would have been telling you to make. I know that you have learned so much, and I want to encourage you not to leave that here, but take that into, some of you are going back to school, some of you may be starting the university or even working, right? And so take all of the things that you would have learned over the past week or over the past 2 or 3 weeks with you, and go and make a difference in wherever you are going to be functioning when you leave here. One thing about youth parliament is that all of the youth parliamentarians that would have left here would have gone on to scale heights wherever they function. And that would be the same for you, right? So I want to once again say congratulations on doing your best. I have seen so much improvement from each and every one of you, and I am especially proud, so very proud of you. So again, congratulations, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Every person that came to speak here today was in the very position that each and every one of you are in right now. And that position can be frightening. It can be, because it's uncharted waters, of course. But at the end of the day, as Ruth just said, soak up the experience and take that back to your communities. All right? Take that back to your communities. Now, I'm also going to say this. I know that today is a big day, not only for youth parliament, but it is also a big day for you individually, because I think today your results are going to be out. So I know that you had to mask your nervousness or maybe your excitement. I'm always nervous when it comes to exams, by the way. So regardless of what it is, I was always nervous. But you know, my mom used to always say, you put the work in, you don't have to be nervous. But still, especially when you're trying to aspire for excellence, that happens. You still get nervous. We're humans. All right? Now, I would just like to say to you, and I always say this, I say, go to your destiny. Because I say that because I don't believe in luck. I do believe in prayer, but I also like to say, go to your destiny, because if something is destined for you, it matters not which road you go down. It matters not the hurdles that you have to cross. It matters not the negative things that you have to face. All that matters is what you are destined to become. And you put in the hard work, I can assure you, you are going to reap the benefits. I want to also allow for the Mr. Clerk and the Deputy Clerk to say a few words as well, because they're there, and well, we haven't heard from the Deputy Clerk, but guess what? I've been hearing from her all the time during text. She was texting me about all the participants, you know, and she is so proud of a particular side. I'm not going to say anything, position. So, and of course, you know, she's supposed to be neutral, and she is, but of course, because when she was here and during her time, she was on the opposition benches. So of course, you have to understand there is some level of, you weren't, but you appeared like that because she probably didn't win anything. I'm just kidding. But yeah, but she did exceptionally well when she was here. And I would just like to give you an opportunity, sir, to make a few remarks. Wherever you feel comfortable, you can come here, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. By now, you all know that I'm Aaron Sintil, the clerk of the 10th Annual Youth Parliament. I have two things to bring to your attention today. One of them is being your growth. Every year here at Youth Parliament, even my experience, the growth of my colleagues and myself is something you don't see every day. Some of you came here with no experience with debating, but yet still, you debated at the highest level. And you should give yourself a round of applause. We know the nerves, we know the nervousness, and yet still you withstood everything and you delivered. I am extremely proud of you all, and I'm extremely proud of my mentees. The next thing that I want to highlight is debates. Debates are important. And although throughout Youth Parliament you're in opposition and government, I want you to remember that this is all discussions. Although you're on the opposition and government, consensus is important. That is how we make our laws. That is how we progress Guyana. And that is how we make change. I want to highlight today that one of our honorable members on the government voted in favor of the opposition, and we should actually applaud him. Year after year, we do not see these things, but yet still he voted on a motion he believes in, and that is change. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, Deputy Clerk, the floor is yours.
Good day, everyone. There isn't much new that I can say to you all that the other mentors have not said. However, I don't think you can hear this enough, but we are extremely proud and impressed by the speeches and the delivery that we've seen today. And it kind of reminds me of my year too, when it was just impressive all around. Um, they're right. Everything that they said before me, they're absolutely right. Your growth, your improvement on point. However, I shouldn't speak on the same things. What I should tell you is that some of you will be getting your results today. And from this point forward, it's going to be difficult. Life is difficult, but that doesn't mean that you have to give up. You keep fighting, just like your speeches. I know for my mentees, they had to come and go like 5 times. And look at them today. All of them exceptionally well. Even though our motion may not have passed, wonderful. And I'm so proud. I realize now that I said that everything that the mentor said prior was correct. However, there is one thing that one mentor said that may not be right. And that's when Jordan said the thing about the government winning, But regardless, we all did extremely well. You guys have a bright future ahead of you. And I know nothing can stop you. Right? That's it.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk. I am seeing a full audience in the viewing gallery. Is there anyone who would like to say something, give a few remarks? Please make yourself come to the floor. There is microphones right there. You can just put it on and you can share your remarks as well. We have teachers. You see, I like to include the teachers because I believe that the teachers, they have a duty, right, to educate, protect, because of course, when you send your children to school, you're hoping that they're being protected, and most times than not, that is so. All right, and to also inspire. So we have our first teacher making her way onto the floor. So please put your hands together for her.
It's working. Good day, everyone. I am a parent of a participant here. I'm also the head of department for social studies at St. Rose's, HFLE teacher for over 10 years. So when you mention it, I really listen. I have been definitely enjoying all debates. I'm very excited. And my daughter would have told me how great you were at training her. She is an avid debater at school, but with what she has learned here, she will take back so much more. I'm looking forward to when the JOF Haynes debate will begin. And I know that all the schools are going to be participating. So our participants from all the school, I hope that you take back the knowledge that you have gained here, because it is very important that you give back to your school. I definitely sent her because I want her to learn. She's about to enter grade 10. And as a teacher, I've been here both days. I'm very much impressed. I'm very happy that you do this every year, and I hope you continue to do it. Thank you.
I thank you so much for your remarks. Is there anyone else who wishes to come and share brief remarks? We are doing this in the hopes that the judges will perhaps decide to give everybody best, because, just saying. Go ahead, my dear. The floor is yours.
All right. Good. Is it good day? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miss Nikita James. I am a teacher from Region 2 at Tasha and Regina Secondary School. And first, I want all of you to please give yourselves a big round of applause. I'm honestly so impressed, especially being around you during your rehearsals and so on. I must say that I have seen much growth from the day you arrived to your presentations. Excellent job. And I think that the motions that you chose to debate on were very fitting and relevant, age appropriate, and also appropriate for this particular setting. And also, I was here in 2019. And I always say that I think that youth parliament is the converging of Guyana's greatest youth minds, and I can definitely see that here today. So kudos to Guyana's greatest youth minds, and I know that you guys are going to go on to do significant and impactful things in society. So all the best and excellent job.
Thank you very much for your remarks. I'm actually scrolling through Facebook and I'm noticing the comments. As I said earlier, I don't know, well, for those of you probably now joining, I said that as long as you comment on our live, I was going to read some of those comments. And I noticed that the University of Guyana Toastmasters Club said great job to the juniors. So thank you very much for your comment. Denise Johnson Butters online, and she's saying great job to both sides. Very impressive young ones. Congratulations to you all. Usually when I start reading out comments, then we start to get an influx of comments coming in one at a time. So sometimes I can't keep up. So as I look and I see, I will read. All right. I'm still looking at the judges who seem to be calculating profusely there. All right. So which obviously means that this is a difficult decision to make. And it's fine. We will wait on them. So I will read a lot more comments that I'm seeing. I'm also seeing a comment by Mr. Caron Park. He's saying blessings. So talk about brief. Thank you very much. This afternoon, we are going to have the fourth sitting. We're going to see the fourth sitting, and that is the senior category. It is interesting that when we started Youth Parliament, well, when I got here, we didn't even have juniors and seniors, we had one, right? And now that we would have separated the two, juniors and seniors, we're able to see a lot of the juniors, we see them in a different light. I'm happy to also see all the debating competitions that the schools from all 10 administrative regions have been conducting. And the interest that is being shown is, what can I say, wonderful. You know, I would have adjudicated a debating competition at the University of Guyana, and that was in the technology department, in the technology faculty. And I was blown away at how eloquent and critically thinking these participants were, and these students were. I mean, for those of you who understand engineering and so on, they have a full-time course. Their courses are really rigid. And to see that they can carve some time to do their research and to speak so eloquently and deliver, right? It was a shocker to me. And I guess it moved that brush that is being painted that only students from the social sciences faculty could be good debaters. But I was wrong. I was wrong. And the fact that these debates are being shown live, the persons can see it, you can take that, whatever it is that you learned, back to your communities, is sparking that interest. And that is what we are aspiring to do, spark that interest. All right? So forgive me if I'm rambling on. As I said, I'm okay. So I've just been given the okay by one of our judges. So the time is here. So children, let's do inhale, exhale. Say after me, goose fraba. No, I'm just kidding. No, don't say that. All right. So now let us hear from the people who had the tough job of today's debates, our distinguished panel of adjudicators. First, let me welcome Dr. Camille Dioki Gurak. She is the CEO of the Camille's Academy and a seasoned adjudicator for both the speakers, national and regional competitions. Thank you so much for taking the time to always being here for us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you once again. What an interesting 2 days. My general conclusion is that what I would have witnessed here is definitely not for the faint at heart. That much I can say. And mind you, once I'm invited next year, I'll make sure I do my general checkup, but more so my ECG. My gosh, you guys, there was some sudden.
Yes.
How do I explain this? But what we have to understand in this chamber, a lot of things need to be done with moderation. I love the energy. I love the attitude. And girls, a lot of you brought with layman's term the sass, right? Is that the word? You are spicy. And I love that. My general recommendation as we go through the score sheets, there were 7 areas. Some of you may ask yourself, even when you're looking back at the video to know or to determine where you went wrong, you have to understand the 7 areas, it's broken down, but there are 2 areas that carries the most weighting. While others may just go for 5 and 10, it is the logical development of your arguments that carries 30 and mechanics that carries 20. So those 2 out of the 7 carries the most weighting, that is half of the scoring points. Now, giving me a score sheet to determine how do we score you out of that 30. This being my 2nd year judging, from research, I've come up with the PEEL method, PEEL. And for those who know what the PEEL method is, it helps you to clearly and concisely put together your argument. P, I would normally give a point to P. That is, how do you state your points clearly? So from that 30, you will get 5 for that. Most important, explain and expound. You need to clarify, what do you mean? You can also give that by definitions, examples, real life scenarios. I've listened to a lot of statements, a lot of personal opinions. I was looking for real life examples. Evidence carries 10. I've put a lot of weighting on evidence because when you support your argument with evidence, obviously it builds credibility. You know what you're saying. You have done your research. But always make sure that your research is current as well. Don't go beyond 10, 15 years. So evidence is very, very important. When you're stating facts versus opinions, in debate, you can give a little bit of opinion. Try to maintain the 80-20 ratio. 80% of your presentation must be factual, but the 20% of your own opinion, how you feel, it invokes emotions within your audience as well. So try to keep it minimal. I've heard a lot of what they think, how they feel, and it's not backed by a lot of evidences. And here is where some team members were marked down. Finally, as we wrap up, the logical development of your argument that went for 30 points, which I further broke down into the PEEL method. That's giving your points, explain, expound, show evidence, is linking. Create that link or that connection that ties you back into the original motion. We must see that link and not just have us jumping here, there, and everywhere. So it's important you have that link. Examples, which I was looking for more. For those who give examples, it's good. Like I said, it builds credibility. Everything must be done in moderation too. 2 to 3 examples is good. It shows variety, but giving too much overwhelms the audience and even your judges. The next part is mechanics, and that is something I've seen missing, especially persons, and I would heard Stefan saying it over and over. We need to remind ourselves that this is a speaking competition. It is a debate, not a reading competition. I know for you being high schoolers, it's hard to remember everything. But even as I continue to judge debates and I mentor young persons like you, we always try to remember the 3 R's. As you research, you rehearse. As you keep rehearsing, you keep repeating yourself. That's how the brain operates. It tends to remember. We know repetition is the mother of all learning. Keep repeating yourself. Rehearse in front of the mirror. Rehearse in front of your family members. They're your biggest critics. Some of us have family members that tell us like it is. If you aren't ready yet, you aren't ready yet. Come on, it's gonna come again. So as you research, you rehearse. As you rehearse, you remember more. So that when you come up here, you read less. Because in mechanics, eye contact, I would have broken down the mechanics into eye contact as well, and I gave 5 points for that. So you have to be very, very careful. Keep practicing, keep practicing. Voice control, and that is something, and I've listened to some of you, I heard it. How you modulate your voice, the vocal variety. When you want to emphasize on something, you can do a high pitch, not shout. Because shouting, some of you, and I have to be very critical, it was a noise to my ears, like a really bad noise, and sometimes it become annoying. And if nobody told you, I'm going to tell you like it is, because I want you to get better at this. Shouting doesn't mean that you're emphasizing a point, and some of you, you shout it so much that sometimes it becomes like a bit disrespectful in this chamber. So your voice modulation is very important. You want to emphasize a point, you raise it, you raise the pitch. You want to speak or make a statement, moderate. You want to evoke emotions in people, you kind of lower the tone. And we heard that from some of you. So the voice control, your body language, pacing back and forth. Try not to do that. And as you go on, learn the power posture, the power stance. All right, so that's where you stand up, you make a certain position, you own that space. Hook. Sometimes the rhetorical questions tend to have us pondering. Wow, that's interesting. I never thought about it that way. 2 to 3 rhetorical questions is good. Some of you, I heard none. So I also give points rhetorical questions. Managing your time effectively, I think some of you did your practice. You rehearsed your speech and you manage your time effectively. Always have your important points up front, because when that final bell goes, everything you say is after, we're not concerned. We start tallying our scores and it's not concerned with what you say after the final bell. So keep your important points up front. But that's manage your time effectively. And finally, but most importantly, how confident you are. Have you emulated that quality of confidence? Are you ready to take on this world? Because in this chamber, it's a lot of leaders in the making, and confidence is key. Congratulations once again. This was an amazing journey for me, and thank you to Youth Parliament for giving me this opportunity.
You're welcome. And I just like to say that you are going to be here next year, not to worry.
Okay.
Up next, we have Mr. Devin Sears. He's a former member of parliament who has lent his time and expertise over the years in shaping and guiding youth parliamentarians throughout his role as an adjudicator. Mr. Devin Sears, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. December. All right, I'm going to be a little longer than Doctor. No, all right. She said most of it, but I want to reference what the Minister of Labor, Ms. Mendonca, had mentioned. She said in one of her quotes, "Let us not wait for the change, let us be the change." And each one of you are the change that we're looking for in this country. Don't sell yourself short. Each one of you, you're not here by luck and chance. We didn't play lotto for you to be here. You came from a family, you're representing a school, and now you're representing the voices of our youth. I must congratulate the Speaker of the House and also the staff of the National Assembly here for putting together another successful youth parliament. Please put your hands together for yourselves and them. What was interesting enough is all the jargons I learned today. So I learned a few things from you guys. And I like the idea that you broke things down so that your peers could understand. That was important to me because as a youth, I want to hear what the next slangs and stuff like that. So I learned that is it. Very soon, very shortly, which is popular. All right. Bob the Builder. And somebody said vibes and then lock it. What's this lock it? Oh, clock it or lock it? Lock it. Oh, that's from Shamar. Okay. You see? So it's was very relatable to know that when you were presenting, you could use terms that other young people could relate to. The motions this year was relevant when it comes to youth development and youth empowerment in Guyana. It addressed issues that many of our youths are faced with on a day-to-day basis in our country. My comment with regards to the mechanics was projection. I mean, you don't have to put your mouth all the way to the microphone. And rightfully, like Doc mentioned, it became kind of annoying. Your points, be sharp and just direct. You have a limited amount of time, but I believe generally most persons manage your time effectively and you represented your schools very, very, very well. We're extremely proud of you. And I know for sure, I can be honest with you, I believe if the government and the opposition related like how you did, I think we would have a better country. So for me, you are an example to follow. And we're looking forward to seeing you in Parliament, Speaker of the House, even presidents and ministers that will lead this country forward. Don't ever sell yourself short. And my final comment is that I say this every year, I believe that Youth Parliament is gearing many of our youths to take up that leadership role, right? And in my eyesight, all of you are winners. Congratulations. And we're looking forward to see what next you will produce. All right. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much, sir. So yesterday, I actually mentioned the same thing too, because I heard things that I never heard before. And I thought, and I think in what I said is that I then realized that I was getting older because there were certain terms I really didn't have any clue what it meant. So I went home and I told my wife, and she said, "You see, actually when I got home, she's like, I saw what you did on the live." I said, "What is that?" She said, "You finally admitted that you were getting old." So I will go back and tell her that I have good company. All right. So thank you very much for your. Was that clock it? What was that? Clock it. Clock it. Yeah. I know I'm embarrassing everybody. I'm sorry. But the next person that I would like to call to this podium, and finally, is Mr. Stefan Gabriel, former youth parliamentarian, chief mentor, and he's what you call a proxy star for the Parliament office. He's always up in here, whether it is to conduct business, of course, or to just play and annoy me. He's all up in here. But he's a brother to me. And you know, usually your younger brothers would annoy you, right? So that's fine. But in this case, he is one of the 4 past youth parliamentarians that gave us the words that define what this program is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls in attendance, do you know what those words are? You don't? Check on your program right now. And the program says what? Where it's motto, where you see motto, those words I'm referring to. Our generation exactly. Our generation, our voice, inspire, encourage, impact. Mr. Gabriel will now announce the winning motions as well as the best speakers from both the government and opposition benches. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Stefan Gabriel.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. There was a lot of calculating to do. And I mean, if you were told beforehand that we had to do all of that, it would have been a bit quicker. So I'm sorry about that. But I want to thank you all for presenting. I know you would not have noticed me here yesterday, but we're very much in tune. But I want to say that we are really extremely proud of every single young person that came here and they did their best. You all did exceptionally, and I think you all deserve a round of applause for that. I know everyone has been waiting for quite some time, so I'll start with the best speakers. And this is following the compilation of scores and also ensuring that we average them correctly. So for the youth entrepreneurship motion, we have the best speaker, Miss Aisha Mendonza, with an average score of 98.0. With the notes that I have here, I'm told that she had delivered a very structured argument and resonated with most of the judges, and earning her near perfect marks out of 100 for clarity. For the motion regarding the prevent the continuous increase of road accidents, we have Javonte Adams. Also scoring, am I correct? Oh, because remember I wasn't. Yeah. Also scoring a quite impressive 98.0. The next person on the mental health motion, we have scoring an average of 90.67, bringing both passion and depth to the discussion. And we have Princess Stevens. Just noting, the judges have quite much similarities with their persons that are picked or selected. And I've just combined the scores and did an average for that, all right? The rehabilitation motion, we have Brutus. We have a Brutus with an average score of 92.0. And finally, there's a finance motion, and this was across the board here, I believe. We have the best speaker is Michaela or Malika, with an average score of 93.5 out of 100. And now on to the big part, the result, the overall outcome. After a very careful run through of the scores yesterday and today, it has been decided that across all 5 motions, the following outcomes were given. For the entrepreneurship motion, we have the government with 1,545 points with an average of 515, and the opposition with 1,419 points with an average of 473. The winner is the government. For the road motion, we have government with 756 points with an average of 252, and the opposition with 850 points with an average of 283. The opposition is the winner for that. We have the mental health motion with the government at 1,258 points with the opposition at 1,130 points. The average 376, government average 419, winner is the government. For rehabilitation, we have government with 1,250 points with an average of 416, and the opposition with an average of 320. The winner is the government. The finance motion, government with an average of 341, with the opposition with an average of 161. Remember, there are varying speakers within but the averages are based on the composition of scores. the winner is the government. So in all, the government has been able to emerge victorious in these 5 motions, and they've clearly showed that they have the strength and the capacity to have these debates proffered. So congratulations to all of the participants that have been participating over these last 2 days. And I wish you so much goodness and wealth in as you go forward. I am really proud of you guys as your chief mentor and today as your chief judge. I'm really happy with the work that you all have done. And I'm also thankful to the staff of the Parliament Office who continue year in, year out to give their time and give their energy and efforts to you and to all of us here. It is remarkable the things that they have done, and they've gone above and beyond. And I think we should give them a round of applause. Also, special thanks to the teachers who've been accompanying these students over the years also, who have been giving their time to, and they tend to not have a lot of recognition. So round of applause to your teachers and your chauffeur. And also to my dear mentors who have been serving here from some in excess of 6 years and 7 years. I really want to say thank you all while I was away. The hard work that you guys have put in, the long hours, you guys have stayed up until 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the mornings, and you've been really working with these children. And I'm so happy and I'm so thankful to have you guys here. And I am really happy to see where you guys will go forward from here. Maybe you'll be here, maybe you won't, but I know you'll have a sterling contribution to the Parliament Office. Okay. All right, I'm being told I have to get an overall best speaker for both sides. Yeah.
All right, good. All right. So whilst the chief judge gives you the overall best speaker from both sides, the government and as well as the opposition, right? I just wanted to recognize someone here today. He approached me in the MP's lounge and he said to me that, he called me by my name and he said to me that his father was proud of me. His father actually taught me in school and his name is Michael Brutus. I would like to give you some recognition because what your father did for me when I was in school is the reason I'm still here and doing what I'm doing. So your father, like my mother, taught me something. Never lie to big people. So I'll give you an interesting story. So the first encounter that I had with his father is, you ready, sir? Yeah. You sure you're ready? Yeah. Okay, after the story. The first encounter I had with his father was a learning one. And what I can say is that the lesson that I learned that day, I took it with me and I'm still carrying it with me. And the lesson is, like I said, is always be truthful, even to yourself. If you see something and and it's against your own morals and values, speak up on it. Never be afraid, never follow company. And my thing wasn't, I wasn't following anybody. All I just did was saying nothing. And by saying nothing, and I heard there was a statement, I heard a quotation, it says, evil exists because good men say nothing. All right? So I'm not going to get into the details of it, because Mr. Gabriel is here breathing down my neck. But I would just like to say that that was a lasting impression. So Mr. Brutus, if you're listening, if you're out there listening, thank you very much for your service. Thank you very much for what you did for me as a teacher.
Could we have, oh yeah, thanks Yannick. Yannick has a lot of stories. I love them, honestly. Could we kindly have Javante Adams stand and Aisha Mendonza? Javante has been awarded Best Speaker on behalf of the opposition throughout the overall, and Aisha has been awarded Best Speaker based on the compilations. You guys have done well. You guys have done really well, and I'm so proud. Great. Thank you. Have your seats and have a good remainder.
All right. So there, someone is just troubling me about the story should continue. No, it wouldn't. Thank you very much to the Speaker of the National Assembly for putting together a wonderful team here at the Parliament Office, along with Miss Carletta Charles, Glasgow. Carletta Charles, thank you very much for your direction. To the staff, the planning committee, who work above and beyond, because apart from work for the youth parliament and all the debating competitions, we still have our duties to the National Assembly and to the Parliament Office. So we try to balance everything. So I just like to recognize the staff, the members of staff. I'd like to also give recognition to the technical team at the back that usually really doesn't get any sort of recognition. Joshua Eastman and Marlon, thank you so much. Thank you to the office assistants, the maids, the cleaners, as well as the servers. They have been crucial in putting this together. All right, and ensuring we have a smooth transition. Also, the drivers who they are usually the last to go home and the first to be here to make sure that you get on time here. So thank you to each and every one of you. To our online viewers, thank you very much for following. We encourage you to continue sharing the posts, the live streams, and encouraging persons to follow us. To Madam Speaker, thank you very much for controlling the House. Mr. Clerk and Deputy Clerk, thank you very much. The mentors. And I think that is about it. The teachers, and for those of you who are seated in the audience today, thank you very much for taking the time to come here and witness history. Goodbye for now.